groups or larger and larger groups of representatives that were going to say, no, enough is enough, and we're going to do something about this.
When people say, I'll fight for blank, right? To me, I think that they need to be saying the thing. And you just said the thing that you would do. The actionable thing is build coalitions and start persuading.
It's
and
build coalitions, start persuading. But what I'll tell you.
Hello. Yeah, welcome to watching ViewsRmine. I'm Andy.
I'm Chris.
I'm Mike. And today we have a special guest with us, a congressional candidate for Minnesota's Congressional District 8, Dr. Wendell Smith.
Hello.
We're
glad to be here.
Delighted to have you here. That's pretty good, right? Yeah.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, okay. And now we can just talk about whatever we want. Because this name of this thing is ViewsRmine. So. And that's the point. Unrestricted views are mine. So. What should we start with?
I don't know. What do you guys want to start with? I mean, there's always things. I mean, for me, healthcare, if you're going to talk about, why I'm running and stuff like that, it's going to be healthcare, money, and politics and stuff. But, we also live up here on the Iron Range. I know you guys are, especially over here, interested in mining. And
we're finding out that you are a lot more interesting to just listen to than just that part.
Well, that's fine. I'll talk about whatever you want. I'm not going to.
Yeah.
Sort of like what we were talking about. You got to have something that you value in life and that gives your life value and purpose. And sometimes that's work. Sometimes work is just a way to put food on the table and stuff like that.
Right. That was the
good observation.
The little test that I kept getting asked was like, what are you getting? What is there anything you get excited for? And I'm like,
well, it was like I'm going through med school, and I don't remember what rotation I was on, but I was talking to the anesthesiologists, and it was a big group of anesthesiologists, and they basically had, they worked for 10 months a year, and then they had 2 months off, and they take it off as a block, and I'm talking to them, and they go, how much, what do you like about your job? He goes, well, I make a really good salary, and I get 2 months off. I said, no, what do you like about your job? He goes, I make a lot of money and get 2 months off.
Why is that why you show up every day?
And that's why he showed up every day was for vacation.
Right.
And,
okay. Interesting. So
so it's you've got to find value, something that makes you happy, and sometimes it's literally what you do on a day-to-day basis. Mine was I enjoyed, talking to people and making people better, but and I.
Have you ever had that experience where you get up in the morning and you actually notice yourself feel, I'm excited to be at work today? Maybe not. See, I've had that once. It was when I was volunteering to be a math tutor, and I was really excited to go in and help and be.
The medicine side. So if you're going to talk about the medicine side of it, which is what I really like to do, I love that. But so much more of it becomes bogged down with the garbage.
Right.
The administrative stuff, doing the charting.
Same with teaching.
All of that side of it that you go, I don't like. I don't like this aspect of it. I mean, yes, going in and operating on somebody and to to save their life, they come in with something, even appendicitis that it's a 50% mortality rate prior to.
Right. But you have that moment of like in meeting him and knowing what you're going to do, and then the moment after with your treatment where you say you get to see the work you've done.
And you get to see it, and or to walk out and. On those hard conversations where you got to walk out and say, look, there's nothing I can do, and what is going to be what is.
Yeah.
And
I think
but even that you still walk out with that I did the best I could.
Right. Yeah, that,
and so
that it wasn't a
So for me, I mean,
a half attempt.
I mean, you can ask my family. I mean, I was a workaholic. I was by myself.
You're addicted to workahol.
Well, yeah.
Can't live without workahol.
And so I worked and worked, and I enjoyed it, but I also didn't spend other time that maybe I should have.
It's kind of interesting that you took this route here, from working to fix people to save, to work towards community and the.
Yeah, I mean, people ask me that, and if you're going to ask me that, sitting here thinking of what I just said, and then that transition to that, to me, it's maybe about the same thing. I mean, still
Yeah.
working on, now instead of working on, an immediate medical problem that you have, now I'm putting my efforts into what I perceive, and I'll phrase it that way because it's obviously what I perceive, but what I perceive as being societal problems, and how do we
Yeah.
find fixes for those to make people a little bit better. I think you still have that altruistic goal in life, which is to help humanity move forward. But yeah, it's probably the same drive that drove me into medicine, the same drive that drives me into politics.
Do you see yourself like shifting from being a people healer to a community healer?
I think it'd be nice to be able to sit back, some years from now and say, instead of seeing you walk down, walk in the store and say, yeah, I saved your life, and you're say, hey, doc, I'm really glad that you saved my life from whatever it was, to looking at society and say that I made it a little bit better, that, something that I did, I think.
Like to see a waiting room full of people knowing that they're there because someone helped provide that for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
And then walking down the road and saying, society's a little bit better because of the effort that I put into it.
Right. I mean, leave it like I don't know if this is an engineering thing or if it was a teaching thing, but leave it better than you found it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think at the end of the day, that's sort of the way I feel. But yeah, I don't know. What's driving me into this? I haven't really maybe done that much deep reflection.
Yeah.
To what's the real thing, but just sitting here and asked that question, maybe it is. It's that same.
Yeah. But
it's the same.
Is there a moment in a career that you're supposed to do that? Maybe, you kind of you put your head down and push the cart for a long time, and then at some point you kind of have to look up and say, what have I been doing? And that's the moment of reflection.
I think you hope you do that. I think all of society, you would hope that you do that. I think some people just put their head down their whole life and never look up. I think maybe some people try to look up too much.
Right.
But I think
you mean they're looking around looking for approval? Like, how am I doing?
Well, I think that is what I'm doing actually making any benefit in the world?
Right.
But I am in I have for the last 20 years been in a profession that I get to see what I do fairly rapidly.
Oh, sure. There's an immediate feedback, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's immediate feedback. But you take somebody like a teacher, that they may not see that for years.
Yeah,
until all of a sudden.
It'll take an adult life to grow up.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure there's a few teachers that I had in high school that if I walked in now and said, I spent 20 years, practicing surgery, and now I'm running for the U.S. Congress, and they would look at me and go,
"You?
No, not you.
In America, yeah. Right.
I think that there's probably a lot of my teachers that would look at that, and a lot of people that I grew up with that would look at it that way.
That'd be a neat. I just have to do a tangent. That would be a really neat idea for just a thing, like a personal project, just like to track down all of the educators and people that knew like famous politicians and stuff, and just to ask them like, "What do you think about this now?" I don't know. Maybe they'd have to do the anonymous, like, solicited voice-changing thing, but anyway.
Well, I mean, I think most of my teachers are probably long gone by now.
Yeah.
But no, I think that it's, teachers see it, and, I think, there's other people that see it, and unfortunately, I think there's some that just sort of beat their head against the wall their whole life and never really see what they've done with it.
Yeah.
Or seen the results of what they've done. Not that they haven't done anything, but seeing the results. I mean,
I know personally that I had immediate feedback from a lot of kids, and I can put myself in their perspective and relate to how it felt to have like an adult take interest in you that wasn't your parents or wasn't a relative that just validated you, and how important that was in the sequence of growing up.
Well, it's important because you see that your life has value,
right?
And you see that you're, as a kid, you see that, and as an adult, you see that too. That what I did helped this individual improve their life. But because I definitely had teachers and people that took interest in me and have changed my routes along the way.
Right.
but I think there's a lot of people that have no clue what impact they had on my life because they just
Right.
never saw it at the time.
Yeah,
Because,
and it's all relative. It's like what it meant to you, what you're
Yeah.
going through. Yeah. So then I always think about if you could, remember what it was like for you and give back. What things would you want for the kids growing up in your shadow to have that you did have or didn't have?
I think, it's the opportunity to do what you want to do. I mean, I fortunately have always been placed in that position that I've had the mechanisms, whether it be, education or the finances for it. I mean, I had a lot of friends that, because of situations they found themselves in, some good, some bad, that they were just never able to really stretch out and to do the things that they wanted to do. They got, sort of locked into a job, and then they got married, and they had to start providing for kids, and they couldn't step out that. I mean, I was in grad school, and I came out of college and I went to graduate school. And while I was in grad school, I had my first child. My wife had our first child, and then we're thinking about having the second one. And I also, came home one night and sort of dropped on her that, I'm 4 years into a graduate program, and I now want to go to med school. And I won't say what she said.
So that's when you made the decision?
And
Okay.
and so I and a little bit prior to that, I had a very good friend of mine that was a physician. He's actually OBGYN, and he actually helped me get into med school. He wrote letters and everything else. I'm forever grateful for him. But I called him up and I started talking to him, and he says, "No, Wendell, I think you ought to do it. Go for it. You got the brains, you got the drive, and everything else." And I'm going,
Go ahead. It's fine.
And I'm going, okay, now I got to convince my wife that what I want to do is to do this. And I remember telling her, and she looks at me, and then she goes off and cries, and because she's looking at. There's 4 more years plus. Then there's training after that. You've got your residencies after that.
Yeah.
And the day that I told her I wanted to do surgery rather than medicine, so now it's 5 years versus 3 years.
And then postdoc.
And then there, and I stopped at that point. And I'll be honest with you, if I would have had my absolute dream, I would have. I was offered a fellowship down at the University of Miami in their trauma center, and I love trauma. I mean, I love the Gun and Knife Club. And my wife looked at me and said, "A, you're not going to take the 2 years out, and B, no, you're not going to do trauma because the only places you're going to want to live are Miami or Chicago or LA or those areas." And she goes, "I don't want to live those places. I want to live something smaller." And so I've had a very good career, and I've never been.
Do you get enough trauma up here?
Not much.
Is it chainsaw trauma?
A little bit of chainsaw. Most of it's we're going to call what we call blunt trauma. So it's
hockey.
No, it's somebody drunk driving into a tree.
Oh yeah, that's blunt. Yeah.
You get more blunt trauma. I've had very little in the 20 years I've been up here. I could probably count on one hand the number of gunshot stab wounds that I've had. But yet, in residency in Miami, I mean, I'm literally at Jackson Memorial downtown Miami. We got. In a 24-hour period, I think the slowest day we had was 12 trauma ones.
Wow.
And the busiest that we had were 12 in an hour and a half.
Like on a full moon?
Yeah, it's like, there were gang wars and everything else going on. And their trauma, so they had 60%, when I was there, 60% penetrating versus 40% blunt.
But you like the rush of the you have that like flow state where you feel calm among the chaos?
Yeah, and I always tell people I like the stories. How did you get into the situation?
And now you're here.
And it's like
I'm part of your story now.
So, but it's But if I'd have done that, but I always had that opportunity to do that. I mean, I had a wife that worked and had a good job, so that I could go off and do those things.
Right.
Where I had friends that just couldn't do that, and they had to go out and earn a living.
Right.
And so I've been very grateful.
So you were married
for that.
Married and had family before you decided to do the med school route.
I had 2. So we talk about, or I talk about, I had one child, and we thought about having a second one, and just about the time I made the decision to go to med school, and we started down that pathway, and then my wife got pregnant with number 2. And so she was probably pregnant at the time we did that.
So you were in grad school when she's pregnant?
And so, my second son was born. I was literally out at a med school interview when he was born.
Yeah.
And
for our viewers, I've been through grad school. It's a load. It puts a strain on a family. So to be doing that and to stick with it is commendable.
So he was born when I was interviewing for med school, and he was 9 months old when I started med school.
Wow.
So we had the 2, and then we had two additional when I was in residency.
Okay. Wow. So that's a lot. Like I went through grad school, and I felt like every second of being awake was I had to focus on grad school. I felt like I didn't have any free board at all, and I couldn't fathom, being able to juggle something. So that is a commendable.
But like I said, I had a wife that supported me and allowed me to do that.
It helps
a family that did that, and so those I've not everybody has that, and so not everybody.
Can I make a pithy segue? Do you feel that that's something that is important in a campaign?
It is. Today my wife and I are talking because we've got to go down to. We have the endorsing convention this weekend, and my wife. We've got 2 dogs, and one's an older dog and struggles a little bit, and we don't like to leave her alone for periods of time. And
like that dog under their table there.
Yeah. And she was saying, I hope it's okay, because she's going to stay home. She's not going to probably go down with us this weekend. She goes, I want everyone to know that I support you.
Yeah. Oh, good.
And
yeah. Right.
And so she's very conscientious of that, even though, she hasn't done a whole lot on the day-to-day things or, or the conventions or anything else.
That is support, though. Having someone waiting for you at home, telling you it's going to be okay,
But she wants, I want everyone to know that I support you. I know it, and my son, who's my campaign manager, he knows it.
Yeah.
But she wants, she wants to make sure that everybody else out there knows that she is very supportive of what I'm doing.
Right. That's what I think is important that we're doing is put a timestamp or something like that. Wendell Smith, we'll put it on the bottom. Wendell Smith has support of his family or something.
She would love you for that.
Yeah.
Because I think, like I said, she's just very much worried that people, because they don't see her there, that they're not supportive,
right.
That she isn't. So I wouldn't do this without her support. So.
That's a thing that I've understood about this. What you're undertaking is such a huge commitment of time and energy, and we're talking Congress, and so that's home away or time away from home, and that in itself is a barrier for a lot of people. Just to be able to, the idea of America is that everybody is able to be a representative.
Yeah. It's funny because I've had some of those questions out there, and they ask, are you going to be available? If you go to Congress, are you available? And I said, and I tell people, this is my home. This is where I live. This is where I enjoy being. I live out in the middle of nowhere. I live on 30 acres.
That's an
understatement.
It's you live in the middle of paradise. It's beautiful here. Yeah.
But it's beautiful. I don't have to worry about it. There's nights I go to sleep, listen to the coyotes or the wolves.
Yeah.
I've had wolves right down in my front yard, 10 feet from my front door.
Yep.
And so it's a beautiful area, and that's where I like living. And
that's
they go,
a privilege, yeah.
But if I win, then I'm going to have to spend a lot of time in D.C. and. Right. That's not going to be my home. Minnesota's still my home.
Do you think that's maybe that's a bonus? A mark in the positive category that someone has a foot in their hometown that they're representing.
I think so. I mean, I mean, we all do things for different reasons. Some people, I think, want to, go to Washington and live, and you have to spend so many days, and I don't know what the rules are, but you have to spend so much time, in your home district and stuff like that. Whereas, I mean, I think of Joe Biden, and he lived in Delaware.
Mm-hmm. And he took his famous for doing the train commute.
He did the train commute. I mean, every day he went home every night to his home in Delaware, and fortunately he lived close enough. And I here it's a little difficult to take the commute home every night.
A couple extra trains.
Yeah, a couple extra. Well, we do need high speed rail, but he was able to do that, and not everyone's able to do that. But still, this is my home, and this is where I want to be, and that's the office. It's sort of like I'd rather sleep at home. And there's many times when I was on call that I would go home at 3 o'clock in the morning because I want to sleep.
Yeah.
I want to get up, take
Instead
a shower,
of staying,
rather than going and finding an empty bed at the hospital.
Yeah. You share of the professions that you share that with is like over the road truckers, and pilots.
At some point, you just want to sleep in your own bed. And there's been many times I go home at 3 o'clock in the morning knowing that I'm going to lose an hour to an hour and a half sleep.
Right. But it's worth
by going home. And to me, it's worth it.
There's a recharge value. Okay.
The thing is, I mean, it's like you say, the mine shut down, it gets left, and now we're left to clean up the mess. And somehow, somewhere, somehow, throughout our process, you've got to hold the companies, because the companies are the ones that are pulling out all the funds, or all the money and all the profit,
right.
and then when things slow down, then they declare bankruptcy, and then society and the people around it, and the states and the federal government, we're the ones that are left to clean up the mess, and
We're not putting an ask on you. We're just trying to make all the candidates.
Well, no, and but I mean here, but that's the problem. I mean, the problem is through our history, as we have sought to take the good things out of the earth to turn them into the things that we want.
Yeah.
Okay,
so balancing things.
We have created. We've created these problems, and and they get bigger as we develop better techniques to get what we want out, and then you got what you don't want left. As you mentioned, I mean, if we're grinding finer and finer, we're getting more and more out of it, but what we're leaving is finer and finer, and probably more toxic and toxic. And so we've got this left, and 300 years ago, we didn't have the technology that we did now, and the amounts that we did. And somehow we've got to, from a societal point of view, I mean, figure out what we're going to do with this. And because otherwise it's to our own destruction, and, it's to our own detriment.
One of our ambitions, that's why I say we're not making this an ask of you, but one of our ambitions is to get a public study, a public cross section of, say, 3,000 people that live in this region to do sampling of their chemistry and see where the mercury level is in Minnesotans.
Hey, Mike, you should tell us about the last one that was done.
Yeah, I think it was the University of Minnesota. It started in 2011 or 2014, something like that, and was abruptly cut off, I don't know why, in 2017 or 18. At the time it was cut off, it was discovered that 10% of the babies born in northeastern Minnesota, which is in Lake Superior, or the St. Louis River watershed into Lake Superior, were born with toxic levels of mercury in their bodies. Some of those babies were way, way, way over the toxic level.
Where it affects your...
Yeah, and the description of toxic legally is where it's the threshold level for brain problems with brain development in children. So,
I'd like to take this opportunity to ask a physician with, I'd say, plenty of experience. What would be the physician's or the recommended dose of mercury?
I have no idea.
What would you say? I mean,
Probably none.
that's the idea.
You know,
How
I mean,
much
I'm not
urine
going to
would
say,
you like?
you know, I mean, yeah, we're not out there. Okay, let's crack open
I need some of
thermometers
my
and
cereal.
Right.
and you know, take it. But you know, when you ask me that question, then I'm thinking more. Okay, what is the recommended intake? So we can
Like in
get
other words,
away with?
what's tolerable, but what would be ideal?
Zero.
Yeah.
I mean, I think
It's not a trace element or like an essential nutrient or anything.
I have no idea. I mean,
Mercury,
I don't know if there's any.
iron's an essential nutrient. But
Yeah, iron's an essential nutrient, but
potassium, calcium.
But I'm sure whatever level it is, we would get in not in maybe our environment.
It hasn't
but
been a problem for.
It hasn't
as
been
long-
a problem. That There's we get enough just by breathing the air. But yeah, I mean it's not like iron that you got to have so much a day or whatever.
But you look at issues and come up with solutions. Sometimes on your feet to make sure somebody doesn't die on a table.
Yeah.
And I have some ideas about how to fix this too.
Well, I mean,
but the problem is that people either don't want to know or they're afraid to look, or if they do see something, it's like, oh my gosh, I guess we're doomed or something. And I do see a solution to this, but it needs to be identified.
Yeah, I mean, I think human nature is that we somewhat stick our head in the sands on things that are uncomfortable. And I mean, I think you look at, okay, if you're going to sit there and say that the mining that we're doing, so I'm going to take it from a 10,000 foot level.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the best level.
And very much from a 10,000 foot level. If you're gonna sit there and say that whatever we're doing is detrimental to our health, then maybe we ought to stop it. Then you start looking at the questions. Well, what happens if we stop it? So if you want to talk about mining, so if we stop mining, then what about the economy? What about all the things that we make out of whatever we're mining out of this, and then where are we going to get it? Then you have to say, okay, well, if we stop it in the United States because we care about, we stop it in northern Minnesota because we care about the people of Minnesota, because that's where we're at. But it's okay to go do it in California because we hate No, I'm not. Maybe Mississippi.
Yeah.
Go do it someplace else. Then you start into the ethics there. And so then we push it off to, another country. And then you start to worry, well, what about national security and, having the things that we need to provide for ourselves. And we see the problems, especially lately with that, with, everything with tariffs, and all of a sudden now we can't get things because there's in other countries that we're not doing here anymore. And so you look at all that. And so I think that, sometimes you stick your head in the sand and go, look, I just don't want to know, because I'm going to have to ask some really, really hard questions. And then the questions are not only, is what we're doing safe, but then you have to start asking, should we be doing what we're doing? And if the answer to that comes into yes, we should be doing what we're doing, now you've got to ask the next question, well, how are we going to make it as safe as possible so that we're not, killing us or our children or our children's children or whatever? And then what are you going to do to reverse that? And so those are the hard questions. But I think that when you start asking those hard questions, you really start to come up with the solutions that you need to, because sticking your head in the sand only works so long. I mean, we talk about, we can go into medicine and talk about the funding of medicine. Into that, we stuck our head in the sand for decades about, what I refer to as cost shifting. So shifting, from those that can pay to those that can't pay. And now all of a sudden, that we're not being able to fund medicine by doing that. So the hard questions are, well, what are we going to do to now fund that so that we keep it for everybody and keep it safe for everybody?
Yeah, and in that discussion, there's always someone who's unhappy with whatever solution.
Well, you're going to be unhappy because everyone brings different objectives to the table. There's going to be some people that it's all about money and all that we want to do is just generate as much as we can. Then there's going to be the other side that says, no, we've got to we got to protect everybody at the highest level, and we need to protect the environment, and all of those people coming to the table have valid. I truly believe have valid input, but you need to come down to somewhere in the middle. I was in a church position, and I had 12 people or 14 people that would give me counsel. And I remember so many times walking into a meeting having a really great idea. And, and and the two people that worked the closest with me, we convinced ourselves that this was the greatest way to approach this problem. And then we'd get in, and my idea was, look, everyone needs to tell me what they truly feel. Mm-hmm. And you had different people from different backgrounds and different educational levels and different jobs and everything else, and they would all give me, their ideas, and I'd walk out of the room, a lot of times doing a 180 on whatever I thought
someone
of it.
brought a new perspective.
But I came out with something that worked a lot better.
Yeah.
But I think
that's important.
But there's not a lot of, I find that there's not a lot of people that do that.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at, so let's go into politics. Sort of describe this, President Lincoln he put Democrats, so he's Republican, so he put Democrats in his
that was
his cabinet because
he was trying to
he wanted to at least have his enemies where he could see them. But no, he wanted that
strategic,
opinion versus who we have now, that all he wants is a bunch of yes men that just nod their head and say yes, he's the greatest person in the world. And that whatever he comes up with is a great idea, and it's a difference in how you approach those problems. I understand. I don't know everything about any. I know very little about anything, but I think one of the skills that I do have is I'm willing to listen to people and incorporate their ideas into whatever problem I'm trying to address.
So part of the problem is one group is saying, prove it first. Don't do anything here until you've got solid evidence for 10 years or something. Versus what you suggested was, and I see that what we really want is 100% containment.
Oh, yeah.
Versus don't do anything, just let her go.
Well, we showed a picture of what happens when you let something sit for 10 years.
So my experience was at Hale Gold Mine, where we actually decided to try to build a structure that was 100% zero leaks.
Right, and it didn't leak.
And that's, I think, kind of bearing in on a solution. But at the same time, every time you drill and blast something, you're going to start polluting. It's just the way it is.
Yeah, and you've got all this out there anyway. I mean, you can say, okay, we've got great technology today, and we can start today to do something. But what do you do with stuff that's 50 years ago? So now you've got to start to address that. But it's asking those uncomfortable questions and getting everyone, not being so defensive against their own position, that they're willing to listen to and come down to something that's workable in the middle.
They're afraid you're attacking them.
Well, yeah, because it's, the environment, not that the environment's very, very important, don't get me wrong, but you've got these two very polarized groups that, to some people, the most important thing is the environment, keeping it absolutely pristine. Another group on the other side of it is, look, the world's here and we take whatever we want, leave whatever mess we want to.
I had a college
roommate. And it's really somewhere, we need this, and we need to do it as safely as we can. And because, we all want to be healthy, and we don't want to, and there's so much that we figure, and that you figure out 10 years down the line, well, that really wasn't that smart.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, that's the way science is. Everyone wants science to be perfect today. The only guarantee of science is that we're going to figure out what we're doing wrong tomorrow and try to make it better.
Yeah.
From 20 years ago.
It's not a policy generator. It's a policy informer.
Yeah. Well, I mean, every experiment. So you look at experiments, and my son and I have talked about this. Really, what you're trying to do is prove yourself wrong.
Yeah, that's what what
and
falsifiability
and,
means. Yeah.
and that's the way science is I'm really
Yeah.
out there trying to prove myself wrong.
Yeah.
And by proving myself wrong on this point, then I'm proving myself right on maybe a different point.
Yeah.
Then you go out to build something that, and non-scientists or people that don't understand that just don't get.
Right.
Well, what you said last week is not what you're saying this week. No, but we're better this week than we, and we're going to disprove parts of what we're doing this week.
We got more
next
information.
week because we have more information, and
Yeah.
and people don't understand that we're really trying to
there's,
prove
there's
this.
like adaptability in
yeah, that we're trying to prove ourselves wrong so we make ourselves better.
Right.
So we've got some new information, and what I'm concerned about, one aspect of it, is that we have treaty right obligation to the tribes to not poison their food. And it looks like the catch that they're hauling in 200 to 300 tons a year, something in that
Right.
range, is in that limit range where you're supposed to throw them back, right? But we don't.
Mike, did you send me that map of the treaty, or was
Yeah, it was in.
was it,
So it's one of the sticky wickets,
was
exactly.
it here or no? Where was
It
it?
was just today. It was late today. In
Oh, it was in regular.
text,
Yeah. It's kind of cool to see that because yeah. This is a neat map. It shows the treaty boundary. Let me get it to where. Let's see,
1936 to
okay, we'll do it like
to
this. And
54.
then I'll
1836 to
switch
54.
to that, and then here's what we're looking at. Yeah. Okay. So we're just talking about treaty rights, and here's a long promise, long help. You know that green one is the one that we're actually very close to the border of. When we go down 37 here, that's
Yeah, I keep seeing the signs.
yeah, and this is what it means that we promised everyone in that green area. We promised them that you can live off the land.
And they agreed to share the land with us.
Yeah, and so now the MPCA comes out with a report, and we just sat through a public like Zoom meeting hearing update thing that was describing how in certain lakes around in the green area there, we're recommending only eating one keepable walleye a month.
Like grade or something.
Right, because of the amount of toxicity of mercury, and that's alarming, but it's upsetting because that statement is a betrayal of this promise that you can subsist off of the land and get your calories, your carbohydrates, and your protein from the land. You can't live off one fish a meal. Or one month fish meal a month, right?
One fish meal.
That's
no,
tough.
and I just saw they're recommending fishing openers coming up, and they're recommending throwing the big ones back, and because just of the amount of
To reduce your own risk.
to reduce your own risk.
Right.
And,
A little fillet knife.
and I think that these are things that again it's those hard questions, and the biggest problem is everyone wants to point fingers and everything else, but we're not going to fix it by trying to blame everybody. We're going to fix it by just accepting, hey, look, here's a problem. Now, how are we going to how do we how do we figure out how to fix it going forward?
Right. So
I've spent my career digging holes and doing all this stuff, so I know exactly what you mean.
And so it's not only just moving forward, but the damage that you've done. And I'm going to go to hopefully I'll go to a meeting here that's talking about ways to get the sulfides out of the water. And so let's start reversing some of the process that we have and start using this. But again, you have to accept we as society and and in a non-judgmental way, I think, in a lot of it, unfortunately, the way the world works is we always want to push blame onto somebody. It's your fault, it's the mine's fault, someone's got to pay for this, whatever. But I think you've got to really sit back and say, look, what's the best for humanity? And let's stop pushing blame and, figure out how do we do this? And how do we move forward in ways that we try to prevent it or at least plan for it.
can I propose a solution?
Sure.
Okay. This is the name of this thing is ViewsRmine, so this is my view. As a way to start adjusting this discussion you were describing a list of things a few minutes ago that were, these are difficult things to address. If we started saying the things that we do, and where we take that phrase, instead of saying the things that we do, and instead say the things that we allow to be done, I think that would, you're just talking about blame, but I think that part of what we've lost in the decades, especially around things like rural healthcare access and is our, I don't, it's not sovereignty. What's the term I'm looking for? Like ownership, right? Like we're talking about, we live here, this is our backyard. So it's not just that we do mining, it's that we allow mining to be done here. And now we're talking about this in terms of what are the things that we want to allow, and that's the people's values first way of approaching this instead of like a business.
Well, I think it's
interests, values first.
But also I think you have to look at it from what's important, and I think it's the same way. It's a different way to look at it. What's important to us.
Right.
And,
So what is? Let's talk about that. Yeah.
Well, and that's the question, is what is important to us? I mean, obviously, if I look at what's important to me, number one, I want my health. I need a roof over my head, I need food on my table, and I need my health. And then, we all like the finer things in life. You look across the table and, sitting here looking at a screen and being able to do the things that we want to do. Those all take resources from this planet that we live on. We don't got we're not mining the moon yet, and all those other places. Right. We're not going to Mars to get things. All we've got is our own planet, and so we're you've got the things that you would like and everything else, and then you have to start saying. You really have to sit back and say what's important to us. And, unfortunately, for the most part, what's important to society, or at least to the people driving society, is the almighty dollar. Mm-hmm. And so, what we want to do is we want to get so if we're going to talk about mining, regardless of what we're going to talk about, whether you want to talk about iron, so taconite, or whether you want to talk about nickel copper, we want to get as much of this resource so we can make as much money as we can. And that's what drives this, and we want to do it at the cheapest possible, which the cheapest possible is just nothing out there, no safeguards, no anything. And so you got that side of it, but I think we really need to sit back and say, what's important to us, and then as you look at what's important, then how do you get all of that, and how do you do this with a balance of all of those components? So, right. Health, safety, food,
So do we have a guiding principle to help just in general?
I don't know if society does.
Question in the back.
No, it's not a question. It's a comment. I think as a region and a people up here, we've gotten kind of lax in tolerating the path of least resistance.
Okay, yeah.
Well, but I think you do that a lot. But but it's like, when does it start to affect people? When is it going to affect the rank and file person? If you want to say that we say is enough. You talk about we're all we want to do is take it out. We don't care. We dump it, and then all of a sudden people start getting the ill effects from it. And then we say, okay, this isn't right. So then you start to legislate it, and okay, what's the levels and everything else. But you can sit and talk about, okay, here are the levels, and this is what causes the problem. The normal person isn't going to understand or accept that. What they start to accept is now all of a sudden you say, okay, opening a fishing, I can take one fish out of this lake, and it has to be between this and this size, because anything bigger is poisonous. And now all of a sudden people go, no, that's not right. Or if you're talking about the native population, you get one fish every month, and they're going, hey, just a minute here, this isn't the way it is. But now we're really down this road a ways and trying to figure out where we go. And then the blame starts. Well, these were the these regulations. and we're not going to fix it unless we all sort of sit down at the table and say, what are our priorities? If our priorities are to as a nation, so if you want to look at it from a national security point of view, we need to be able to have the resources that we need, so we're not dependent on foreign company or foreign powers and foreign countries. Then you say, okay, we've got a lot of resources here, but how do we get them out that is safe? And it's that safety side. And does that safety side cost money? Yes, it does. And unfortunately, it's like medicine, or it's like insurance companies for medicine. They want to make as much profit as they can in as short as time as they can.
Right.
And they don't care about what happened yesterday, or they're not having what's going to happen tomorrow. All they care about is today. It's actually on a quarter, but it's the same thing. And it's the same thing with mining or anything else. If all we're trying to do is to optimize our profits, then the first thing you're going to do is get rid of safety, because that's going to cost money.
Yeah. So everything you've just said, I see a parallel between the hospital system.
I was just going to say.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, it's
You've got the
like
same
if you replace the
problem
word
with, single payer.
If you replace the word like extracting minerals with like providing health care, you've just described that too, right?
it's all in the economics. It's we live in an economic system that what we want to do is extract as much wealth as we can. And the only way that you can extract wealth is by, maximizing profits and minimizing your costs.
Can I make you say something or respond to something controversial?
Sure.
Is there a place for that, to be like, is that a thing? Like just the idea of like, make as much money as possible. Is there a place for that for us?
That's what we've been doing for the last whatever else, and it's why we're where we're at. I mean, it is controversial because, then you start into, a lot of things that make people very uncomfortable when you start talking about, because they're talking about Karl Marx, which, his idea was that the worker should own the means of their labor. And so what that means is, I should be in control. So as a physician, I should be in complete control of what I make. Mm-hmm. And as a physician, I have never been in control of what I make. Mm-hmm.
Or engineer,
or as an engineer, or as whoever, as a factory worker, you should be able to control, the means of your production and everything else.
Right.
And as a physician, no. I don't control it.
What would be bit different if you did, or how would that be better or worse?
I think at one time you were. I think now.
You mean like a country doc who does house calls?
Yeah, a country doctor does house calls. You look at medicine. So, if you go back, and I was thinking this driving over today. So if you go back 120 years ago.
Yeah. Oh, okay, yeah.
Okay,
that's a good conversation, yeah.
So you go back 120 years ago, doctors did as much damage, probably did more damage than they did good.
Sure.
Okay, that's a reality.
All in the name of progress.
All in the name of progress,
You gotta learn somewhere.
We didn't understand a lot of things. We didn't understand germ theory, that there's germs all around us. Surgeons thought, hey, as long as I operate fast, then the germs don't get in. No, they're already all around you. And they'd take the knife and wipe it off on their bloody, dirty pants, and then go to the next one.
What do you mean soap?
Yeah, what's the soap stuff?
Yeah,
and but at the turn of the 20th century, if I as a doctor went out and helped somebody, and then we negotiated whatever that price was, that price was, okay, the guy could give me $100, $100 back then is way more, but give me $5 and I could go buy something for that. Or they would say, look, I'll give you half a cow. Okay, fine, I can feed my family. For nowadays that's not the way it happens. I was hired. I was told that the government sets a certain value to whatever procedure. So I'm a surgeon, to whatever procedure, and we call it, it's just a value rate, a relative value rate, RVU.
It's your widget.
Yeah, it's a widget, and it really is a widget, and it can be described as a widget.
And you produce widget.
And I produce widgets, and I get so many beans per widget. An appendix is worth 10 and an office visit is worth 1, and 1 would be good for an office visit, but and then at the end of the year the company comes in and tells me we're going to pay you X number of dollars for every widget that you make, and I have no control on any of that. I don't have any control of what they're charging the insurance companies.
Right.
I have no control of what the insurance company is actually paying for them. It's just that, at the end of the day, I have a job and they pay me, and it's enough that I'm not going to go look for something else. But
So it's like the commodities of iron or copper.
Right.
yeah,
Same
it's not.
price
But at
structure.
the same time, I don't have any control over any of that.
Right. I want to pause on that moment. The thing you just said is that you don't have control over the pricing, the insurance company. Okay, so back to the perspective of 120 years of time and the 10,000-foot view. What is the phenomenon that we're talking about, and what would be the big parts of the machinery that would change to improve or change it? We could pause. And,
Can you get
Well,
there from here?
Candidates will have 2 minutes to answer.
Yeah, you got 2 minutes.
We promise not to ambush anybody.
No, I mean it's capitalism, and and capitalism. The ideas behind capitalism is you have things that, if I can do it cheaper, then I'll do it cheaper,
Right.
and if you can,
We have a little competition. And
there's a little
innovation.
competition
Yeah.
and everything else like that.
Yeah.
But then what happens is, I do it a little cheaper for a while, and I put everybody else out of business, and then I soak them up, and and then I
Market
move on,
capture.
and
Yeah.
and it's just one of those things that
Can I say something
Yeah.
about the analogy of capitalism and competition, and right? That's a lot like natural selection, isn't it? Like the best of that. Yeah. Okay. But
Yeah.
there's part of that system in America that's missing. So in the natural example of evolution, right, you have to have extinctions, right? Okay. That's what's missing.
Well,
We don't let companies fail.
Well, we do, but then they get soaked up by bigger and bigger companies, and
Right.
and again, yeah, I mean, Spirit Airlines, for example, is being bought out by the government because they're failing, but
Right.
yeah, it's the problem comes into is then 120 years ago, I had to manage all of that, and it becomes more and more complex and everything else
on your own.
And now, all I do is I show up to work and I get paid, and it's consistent.
Yeah.
And there's stability there,
Yeah.
at least as long as the
And
program
there's
works.
trade-offs because you're spending less time doing that kind of managing and more time
Right, I mean-
doing widget making. So
Right.
there's efficiency, and
And so there's
important.
efficiency,
That's good,
but
yeah.
you give that up, and
Right.
and then you start to lose the control to
Right.
where you're just a cog in the wheel, and I think that's sort of where the problems come into it is you just become a cog in the wheel,
Right.
and someone else is driving the cog, and you don't have any
That's what we were
control.
promising our children. Would you like to be a cog?
You like to be a cog.
You have a choice.
I like what you said about the economics, right? Because the single payer system would fix the problems with financing rural.
Well, I mean, if you look, so if we want to
Hospitals.
specifically talk about, if you specifically talk about hospitals and medical care, I mean, you've got to, number one, I think you have to understand that, the way we got to where we did is, at the end of World War II, where a lot of the world said, look, we think that medicine's a human right, and we'll fund it from a governmental point of view.
Right.
We in the United States said, look, the businesses have all the money, and the business have the employee. They have a desire to keep their employees well, and so they can pay for, privatization. They can pay for.
Exuberant.
They can pay for it.
luxury services.
And so, that's how it started. Nowadays, I think people need to understand that insurance companies have no desire. They have no care to provide the service for which you contract them for. Their desire
it's
is
against
to make
their
money.
best interests.
Yeah, they want to make money,
Right.
and the way they make money is the same way as anybody makes money. You make sure you got lots of money coming in and very little coming out.
And cut corners.
So Lloyd's of
That's
London
efficiency,
is
yeah.
probably the only insurance company that's gone bankrupt. Does that sound right?
Yeah, I mean, and if you're going to start a company, insurance companies, because
Is there any reason why? Or
Yeah,
what?
because of asbestos.
Lloyd's of London.
All the claims of asbestos poisoning
like in-
bankrupted Lloyd's of London.
Oh, okay.
The oldest insurer.
But
yeah.
so but they want to maximize. They want to maximize their profits, and the way you maximize profits is minimize your costs.
Well, that's what good grade of ore satisfies a lot of expenses,
Right.
and the expenses are pollution control
Right.
for mercury out of
Right.
stacks.
This is the model of cost per ton.
So even the DNR's reports have said, well, doesn't look like we can impose this on the taconite mines because they just can't afford it and they'll shut down. And they've said the same thing about sulfates.
Somebody said something about extinction.
Extinction.
Right? Oh,
Right, but they actually have quite a bit of money for
what?
other stuff, right?
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
So they're just not spending it on,
Well,
on keeping the place from
I mean,
getting-
people, when you talk about universal health care,
Hey, it's expensive to have CEOs.
then it's too expensive. Your taxes are going to go up. All of these things, but it's. I mean, there's a lot of cost savings with it and everything else.
Why should our taxes go up if CEOs get paid?
Oh, it's
Why
the
don't we
way
stop
the
paying
system works.
CEOs so our taxes
I
don't
think
have
so.
to go up?
I think that would be good.
But I mean, you look at that, and you look at the funding, and the funding's there. I mean, it's just the billing. I mean, look at the billing. I was reading the paper the other day, actually put out by Bernie Sanders' group, and looking at the costs.
Yeah.
Just going to a single-payer health system. So, right now you go to a billing department in a hospital, lots and lots of people, lots and lots of forms. Every form is just a little bit different, and there are reasons for that. But you've got all of these forms. I mean, just going to a single claim form that would work for everybody, so single payer, would save $115 million a year.
Just in paperwork costs.
Just
Holy
in
cow.
paperwork costs. We're not even talking about. We're not doing anything to anything else. Just the savings in paperwork costs.
So that begs the question: why does the system we have persist?
Money in politics.
All right, money in
CEOs.
politics.
So it comes into money in politics.
Money, yeah.
As so if you ask the question to the United States, and these polls are out there, it's a Gallup poll. Do you support Medicare for all? And you use that terminology. Now, a lot of people don't like the terminology Medicare for all because they think, socialism. We can't have that.
Yeah,
we're the
but
United
not that
States.
Obamacare.
Right. Obamacare's bad.
But I like that ACA.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's all in terminology. But
Okay.
even if you use the terminology
Yeah.
Medicare for all,
Right.
60% of the United States population wants Medicare for all.
I'm saying that's uncontroversial, huh?
A third of Republicans, even Republicans, if you use the bad terminology, they want it.
So in other words, a third of them need it. That's what that
pretty-
means. Yeah.
So they probably live in the South. No,
Yeah.
I didn't say that.
Hey, we don't judge.
So a third of Republicans do. So people want Medicare for all. I mean, the real simple. It's fairly uncontroversial. People are in favor of Medicare for all. And so why aren't the politicians doing it? Because the insurance companies, and I'm going to say big pharma, so pharmaceuticals and all the other suppliers to the medicine, to the medical machine. Look, I mean, what's going to happen? What's going to happen to United Healthcare or United Health Systems if all of a sudden we go to a single-payer health system?
I'm worried about that.
I'm not.
Lloyd's of London again.
You know,
hey.
I'll be blunt with you.
Campaign manager, that's your soundbite right there.
I'm not worried about it. You know.
What are you saying?
But
Yeah.
but they pay off politicians.
Yeah.
I mean,
Hey, it's expensive to be a lobbyist.
it's expensive. You gotta-
Lobsters don't,
I
buy
mean, and they
themselves
and they
and fly
lobby
themselves.
for
Yeah.
they
Look
lobby
at this
against it.
place.
They lobby against it. They, super PACs and
Yeah.
corporate PACs, and they pump millions and millions of dollars.
I think they're realizing they've found out that the wheel system we've inadvertently created in America is a lot more efficient influence to be made through not being a politician but influencing them.
Yeah.
That's our
'Cause-
system.
Lobbying.
Yeah, I mean
Lobbying.
that's not a new thought I've
But
created.
I mean, but
yeah.
as they,
Right.
as they pay into the coffers and they pay
Right.
for them to come talk to them and all the other things, then those individuals that they're funding or they're giving money to will vote against the interests of their constituents.
So I'm going to hang on that point for a second. How do I phrase this? My little noodle up here is kind of it's rebooting. A lot of the way that we talk about this thing it's like rhetoric that it comes from within an industry. It's self promoting or self protecting. Like the groups that are against putting restrictions on lobbying, things like that, are those that are profiting off of it or those that are benefiting from it, right? So I forgot what my question was because my little noodle is rebooting, but yeah.
Well, while you're doing that, Andy,
Rebooting.
I'd just like to point out that a lot of the resistance to Medicare for all is based in really hardcore racism.
Yeah.
We don't want all these. I hate the word, immigrant or
Right.
illegals
Well,
that
yeah.
Like
have health care.
that, and welfare queen is another term for
Well,
something worse. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think people got this. Why should somebody that doesn't work? I mean, I work real hard and I get, my insurance, and why somebody that doesn't work hard get that insurance gets the same that I get and everything else. Well, I'm going to be blunt. People that are on, a lot of people that are on Medicare get better insurance benefits than I do. I mean, at
Right.
least easier.
Yeah.
Maybe not with all the cuts and everything that are happening now, but
But that's also part of the phenomenon is
But
that you
it's-
shouldn't have that be
It
your
should be
reality.
no disparity.
Right.
But that shouldn't be the reality, because I
Right.
mean, unfortunately, or fortunately or unfortunately, however you want to look at it, it's if hospitals start to close because there's no funding, and we are at a crisis point in the United States. That, I mean, if the last number I had, there was 446, if I remember, hospitals that are at risk of closing. The last one I saw out of Minnesota, there's 19 at-risk hospital, and there's
Holy cow.
six that are high risk, and the one here in Hibbing is on that list, and the one in Hibbing is on every list. Whether it be local, meaning Minnesota, or national. Hibbing, Minnesota is on that list, and if those hospitals start to close, it doesn't, if there's a healthcare crisis, it doesn't matter if you got the best insurance in the world.
Right. If there isn't a
If
doctor there.
If there isn't a hospital, and again, you have to sort of understand that the hospitals and clinics are inherently different. So clinics can say, look, you have to pay or we don't treat you. Hospitals cannot do that.
Right.
And I think it was 86. I didn't look this date up, but 86 when the COBRA law was done, of which EMTALA is part of it. And the EMTALA is the Emergency Medical Treatment and Labor Act, which basically says that if you show up to an emergency room, EMTALA, EMTALA.
If you crawl in the door, then
If you come to the hospital, we have to treat you.
Yeah, 86.
86.
That's the power of the. Jamie, pull that up.
Yeah, I actually looked at this is where I got it from.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
But if you so EMTALA was done because what was happening before that is hospitals saying, look, we can't afford to give all this quote unquote charity care. We can't keep our doors open. This is since '86. We can't keep our doors open if we don't get paid.
Right.
And so the government came in and said, look, you cannot do a wallet biopsy before you treat people.
Okay.
And that's basically
All right.
when you come in, show us your card. And if you don't have a card, then you either get sent to some hospital that does all charity care, or
You wait in the hallway.
or you wait in the hallway until we're really bored.
That's what this says, that it's designed to
Yeah.
prevent hospitals from transferring uninsured or Medicaid patients to public hospitals without, at minimum, providing a medical
Yeah.
screening. So we passed that? Isn't it a little wild that 36, 37 years, 38 years ago that
Yeah.
that's
So
where we're at now?
and so with EMTALA now, all hospitals have to treat
Right.
uninsured or underinsured.
Right.
And so that's. But the problem is now, we're getting less and less reimbursement. Our costs are going up. I mean, I as a physician would like to have a raise once in a while. I mean, in my 30 years of practicing medicine, I got one raise on a widget basis.
You're
I-
really
I-
good at making those
I
widgets that
learned
much.
how to make the widgets a lot quicker.
You're a
Yeah,
widget
yeah.
innovator.
But and so I made more money.
Yeah.
But actual cost per
You
widget.
got a reward.
Cost per widget. I got one raise, and that's when I changed jobs.
Yeah.
And so, and so that's.
Wow.
And
Just-
so
just
if you're making
that's how much
less-
we value. Just as a sidebar, that's how much we value physicians and
And
those
teachers.
those in our society that provide such a necessary public good is I guess you should get a raise for being, but you got to prove it first.
Yeah, no, I mean, I never,
that's-
like I said, I
that's
made more because I got quicker,
Yeah.
or I got more
Or-
efficient,
right,
but
right.
That's
I didn't
the
make any more
imbalance.
To take your appendix out,
Right.
it was I made the same 20 years ago as I did today.
Right. So I want to ask you a question in the interest of just completely unbiased and like neutral thought. EMTALA, good or bad?
Good.
Okay, good. Okay.
It's
Good that you answered. Not
It's-
good that right answer. I'm just
no,
trying to
it's
be.
it's good in the way that we take care of the patient.
Right.
So now you come back into my Hippocratic oath.
Yes, okay,
Patients
yeah,
above,
yeah.
Patients above self, patients above,
Right.
Profits.
Right.
However you want to phrase that. You always put the patient cares first.
So this
And so
is-
EMTALA,
Yeah.
helped us to say that yes, we have to take care of the patients. So from a personal point of view and from a patient point of view, EMTALA has been good. From an
Right.
industry point of view, it's been
Right.
bad because now how do we pay those costs?
Right.
And historically we paid for those costs out of our profits, and we said, we need to probably provide back to the community a little bit. Let's take the the altruistic view of it, that we can go back and take care of the underprivileged and less privileged. But in this world today, we have more and more falling into that category,
Right.
that we're not going to be able to take care of anybody
right.
because we're not getting reimbursed at a level to keep the doors open.
Well, that's so.
I
That is,
hate my train of thought leaving so much right now.
there's this very similar thread with the mining industry. And when I started at GTAC, there were 600 and some people working there. And a lot through my efforts of efficiency work, we got that down to 300. And the patient became the company.
Oh, yeah.
And,
Good way of
and
looking
that
at it.
was his experience with profit sharing, and having the labor union shift its focus from an adversarial interaction with the company to its main proponent
Yeah, it was
in
pretty-
order to keep the patient alive.
The mining companies relied on the market for a long time, and when a certain period of time came by, we jumped into the political sphere with the companies, and it locked elbows and went to D.C. to petition the senators and reps for relief, and we got some relief. But from a standpoint of labor language, we gave up a lot because when we came back here, now we were trying to negotiate a contract with a company that we were, well, the old saying is we were in bed with, you know, and that had a profound change here in the Iron Range. Nowadays, I have a hard time saying this, but we sat across the table from a company and negotiated a contract that included medical benefits for retirees and the workers' families and their kids and everybody. Now we're finding out this company has been putting pollutants in these rivers that have a serious chance of harming the communities and everyone around here in a big way. And we're very, very indignant to not address that. I don't know how to form that into a question, but
Well, you know, again, we're coming back to this thing is what's important. And, you know, is the importance just whatever the company, you know, whatever profit the company can pull out of the ground at the least cost, and again, cost comes into, you know, what do you got to pay employees, and how can you get good employees and stuff like that, and versus, you know, so you got that side versus, you know, when we get older, that we'd like to be healthy enough to do the things that we want. We want our kids healthy, we want our kids healthy, and we want them happy. We always want our kids to have a little bit more than what we had.
nothing wrong with that.
Okay, I mean, but we're coming into a society right now that our kids are going to come out with less than we had.
Yeah.
I mean, my generation is probably one of the last generations that universally that the parents are going to probably be better off than their kids.
Right.
And so I'm leaving a world that doesn't have as many opportunities for my children as what I had growing up. And as we talked earlier, what do you see those opportunities that we have make us happy, and the things that we do with them. And so somehow we've got to make a paradigm shift into, truly what's important. Because, right now, I mean, we have oligarchs, we have people that are, you can take, whoever you want to name, Bezos or Elon Musk, you could take away 99% of their wealth, literally, and their day-to-day living would not change. They would still be filthy rich. They still have more money than they will ever be able to spend. And then you've got people on the other end of it that are struggling.
Yeah.
They're literally struggling, and we're not talking the world, but even just in the United States.
Yeah, people that work hard that are struggling.
Well, I mean, you look at, people that work hard that are struggling and working 3 jobs and are never home with their kids, and really the only meals that they get are the ones they get at school.
Yeah. A lot of those kids were my students when I lived in Washington.
Right, and that's what you're getting, and you see this huge dichotomy of everything, and we just can't keep going down that road.
Right.
We're not going to be. I mean, when we're talking about medicine, you look at, we can't keep going down the road that we're going because hospitals are going to start closing. I mean, Hennepin County, so, the largest healthcare provider in the cities, the number 1 trauma center, the number 1 burn center, the number 1 training center. So, I would like someone.
You're saying
to
there's a public good there?
I would like somebody to take care of me when I get older. I'm old now, but someone to take care of my kids when they get older. We have to train people, and I mean that's literally at risk of closure before the election.
That's unreal. Before the election.
I mean, before the election.
Like you're kind of campaigning on that as a thing, but then it could be inevitable.
And that's a reality. And the legislator may step in, and will probably step in, and they need to step in, all of those things, and put a Band-Aid on it. But it's just going to be a Band-Aid. It's not fixing the problem that we've got ourselves into.
Right.
And and even the paper that I was reading, I mean, there's some really quick term fixes. We have to, make healthcare affordable, and come back and refund the ACA and stuff like that. But the reality is that we need to get to a single payer universal health where we just take care of everybody, and we understand that is something that is as important as anything else. It's as important as building bombs. It's as important as building drones, having a Department of Defense, having Homeland Security.
But the discussion doesn't seem the discussion about it doesn't seem like that's what's happened. That it is.
Well,
important.
no. It's because that's just not what's being discussed. I mean, let's go back. I'm going to always come back. When I started this campaign, and we sat down and put the platform together, my passion is obviously medicine, and so I said my number one platform point will be Medicare for all, or universal health care, or health care is a human right. I mean, I have my banner, I have my little banner, and
you're like the rent is too damn high guy, but about healthcare, rural healthcare.
But as I've gotten more and more into this, and you start to look at it, why aren't we doing that? Why are we, I love the
theme
memes.
Emerges.
I love the memes. I mean, we always have enough money to go start a war. We always have enough money to build bombs. We always have enough money, to do whatever. But we don't have enough money to have universal health care. We don't have enough money to fund education. We don't have enough money to, whatever.
Do we need those?
That would be helpful. But you look at that, and and what is it? I'm always going to go back to money in politics. It's it's the PACs and the it's the corporate. When I say PACs, I have my son always says you've got to say corporate PACs.
Because there's good PACs.
Because there's good PACs.
Yeah, like
union PACs.
Yeah.
There's union PACs, and I mean, I signed Patients Over Profits pledge,
not
which
super
says
PACs, they're mini PACs.
that says that I'm not going to take more than $200 from any healthcare organization because I'm not going to be bought.
What was the name of that pledge? I spoke over you.
Oh, Patients Over Profits.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that was a thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so but you've got lobbyists paying off to pump money into the defense industry, and you have lobbyists getting money pumped into the insurance industry
And big tech.
and into big pharmacy and stuff like that, into big tech, and we don't have a lot of money getting pumped into those social programs because we don't want social. We don't want to take care of society.
Hang on that thought right there. The idea about the way that we talk about social problems. I want to go back to how I asked you, EMTALA, good or bad? And good. And then you said enacting this policy was eating into the profits of the insurance companies, or at least that's
it's not into the insurance company. It's into the profits of the hospitals.
Oh, okay.
It's into the profits of the hospitals.
I'm glad you clarified because I was going to make a whole point about that, but
no, it's in because you've got to provide the care, and if you, I mean. So I had surgery a couple of years ago. Had a little cancer on my face and got taken off, and they had to take a big chunk out. And I spent one night in the hospital. My bill just for the hospital was somewhere between $50,000 and $60,000.
What?
Yeah.
And one night.
No, I got that. I'm just
One night.
One night was somewhere between $50,000 and $60,000. And so
We're in a rainstorm right now. Do you hear it?
I had a
It's this
thought
guy right here making noise in the background.
And so, you just now if I can't pay that, if it's something that I end up having to, I got mine.
Okay.
That I end up having to, from a hospital point of view, eat. Then that's a $50,000 loss
and
on my bottom line.
Well, the point is about how the pool of costs from all the different types of patients is burdened. What's the term for? Well, how could I use burden as a verb? Burdening. Smart. It's putting that on burdening the hospital is what you're saying.
Right, and because they're you're providing care without being compensated for it.
Right.
It would be like, the best description I can have it'd be like everyone says that I can have a Mercedes Benz or I'm going to go Bugatti. Okay,
Bugatti.
If you're going to go big,
That's a good choice.
You know, but
High repair costs.
Yeah.
you know, yeah, but everyone gets a Bugatti, and
Cool.
And so I walk into Bugatti, and they say, okay, it's $3 million, and I go, well, I got $10, but I get it.
Yeah.
And they go, well, thanks for the $10, but it doesn't cover, it doesn't cover the decal on the front end. It's the same thing with medicine. The problem is we have to.
What's the Bugatti equivalent of medicine?
Anything we do.
Well,
Yeah, like anything to keep you alive.
Well, I mean, you think about it. So
Better
so
question. What's the 1995 Ford F-150 of medicine?
So I talk about this little cancer on my face.
Yeah.
So I had it taken off. I had, this all reconstructed and everything else, so that I look relatively normal. And they did a fantastic job, by the way. I had a fantastic surgeon.
It's okay. It's okay.
No.
Yeah,
But
it'll come back. Just let it pause. This isn't live.
I have a poignant question.
But I had this, and it's just I got the best care possible, and we do that. It'd be like, I know what I was gonna say. So since that time, every 3 months, because they've been following some nodes in my neck, every 3 months I was getting PET scans.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so it's a very specialized
That
scan.
sounds reasonable and proactive.
It sounds reasonable, proactive, but even with insurance that I had, I was waiting for them to balk it. No, look, you get one PET scan a year, because that's sort of the normal. We're following this. This is the best way to follow it.
Right.
And so, PET scans aren't cheap. I don't know what the cost was. I never saw the price on it, but they're not cheap. And
I have an analogy.
and it's like, but I got the Bugatti of it.
Yeah.
And everyone that, if you take somebody in my position that doesn't have any insurance, they're going to get the same thing.
Yeah, right. That's what's costing hospitals money and causing them to.
We are providing.
Right.
We're providing equal care across.
Right.
I mean, the idea is that we provide equal care across the spectrum.
So that's important to kind of encapsulate that phenomenon, just providing equal care across for those who need it, good or bad.
It's good.
That's good.
So there was
That's important.
There was a continuous thread through the candidate forum that we were just at, right? And let me ask you a question, because you're going to remember if it was 1890 or 1888 when Rockefeller bailed out the United States.
Which time?
Right. That's what I'm getting to, right? Because you're talking about trying to keep...
1880. 1890? Oh, there's so many. The history of market crashes in the U.S. is so interesting.
So the expectation was that we're going to come up with a wealth tax or something to keep the whole thing from just exploding, because we're now at 30-some trillion or whatever it is.
39.
And we're also figuring out a way to make it easy on everybody to take an aspirin and realize that they're not going to get Social Security anymore. So, where's the Rockefeller solution? Or is that really what we're headed to? Is it just that that's the only available source to keep the little dinghy from losing all the air and sinking?
Yeah,
we're in a different landscape than so. Just an edification, the reason why that example with Rockefeller is so significant is it was at a time in the U.S. history when the U.S. as an entity was not the wealthiest. Where the largest amount of money was. Rockefeller had more money than the U.S. government at that point, and that's why he was involved in bailing out. That's the famous thing where he locked all the bankers in the bank and forced them to, or locked him in his office and forced him to.
J.P. Morgan.
You're right. Sorry, it's not Rockefeller. It's J.P. Morgan. That's what?
1907.
That was 07? Okay. Maybe it was Rockefeller was one. Like there was the crash of. I'm looking at the list here. There's the panic
The
of.
list.
Yeah, no, really. The financial crisis of 1791, of 1796, panic of 1918, 1925, 1937, or 1837, 1847. Oh, it's on the sevens. 1857, 1866, Black Friday in 1869. The Panic of 1973 was the first time that there was an international, it was a global crisis, because this was related to the Prussia War, or the war in Prussia, something to do with Franco-Prussian War. And then the one that I think that you're talking about with Rockefeller was the 1893 or the 1896. Anyway, sorry, this is a tangent, and I lost my train of thought
But
again.
my point is that the thread through the candidate forum was that we're going to figure out some way to have all the oligarchs pay for all this stuff, right?
Okay, I kind of think the only way to deal with them is to get them out of the country. But
Well,
that's my perspective. I'm not.
I don't see that.
What do you
that's
think?
gonna happen.
Well, but I mean, at some point, I mean, you look at Carnegie and you look at Rockefeller, and I mean, at some point they had more money than they were ever going to spend, and they started to put it back into society. And however, they took that I'm never going to be able to spend this much money, and I'm going to start putting it back into society. I don't see that the same thing happening today. I mean, Bill Gates is doing a little bit more of it, but the rest of them are just I want to make more.
Right. Once you get to that level, the goal is to keep your wealth.
Well, you want to be at the top of the pile,
Right.
And Bezos wants to be richer than Musk, and Musk wants to be richer than Bezos.
What an ungodly, evil, and yet juvenile competition to be part of.
But like I said, you could take away 99% of their wealth. Literally, you could take it away tomorrow.
Yeah, and they're not even gonna.
And they're not even going to notice it.
Right. Well, there was an example I heard somewhere where they were describing how they are actually unable to spend any of their money because it's so to withdraw even a small percentage of their wealth out of the market would cause such a reshuffling of global balances that's impossible.
Yeah,
Bill
it's
Gates has actually said that himself.
Yeah. Oh, he has.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like a "come at me, bro" kind of statement, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but it's just you can, and so at some point, I mean, it's enough is enough, and you've got to start putting it back in. I mean, you look at look at Bezos, and you look at Amazon, and I mean, how did he become as rich as he did? And it's because he maximized his profits and minimized his costs, which he paid all of his employees minimum wage.
Right.
They're making him millions and millions and billions of dollars every day, and he's not putting it back into those people that are actually helping him to do it.
Yeah, they sacrifice so much.
Right, and I'm not saying that that it's his idea and stuff like that. You can say there's a value to that, but at some point, I mean, let's just be blunt. He's a leech on.
Right.
On his employers' salaries.
I don't think that's controversial because the money has literally gone up. Whoops. The flow of money has gone to him and stopped.
No, I mean, it doesn't come back out. It's
Right.
not. It's not like he's pumping it, back into the system. It's not like, okay, look, I've made a lot of money, so now let's start paying my employees more so they can have more and they can spend more, and we talk about completely changed. So let's talk about education forgiveness loans. You take somebody that. So my daughter, for example, she just finished pharmacy school, and she's in debt $250,000 because I just asked her that.
Which is normal, but
which is normal. I mean, that's not like it's a
a house.
I mean, at least it's graduate school and it's not undergraduate.
Yeah.
And so she's in debt for $250,000, and so she's going to spend a vast majority of her life paying that back. And so now, if you would forgive that loan, it's governmental loans, and government, if you forgive those loans to her, now instead of that money, going from her to the government to build more bombs.
Right.
Oh,
Well, actually, sorry to make a tangent. Most of the government money that has made these billionaires, or I should say it like this, where the billionaires have been paid subsidies by the government.
well, right. I
Yeah,
mean,
so-
it's
yeah.
to build bombs, so they
Yeah.
they send it to the billionaires to build more bombs.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Anyway, sorry.
and I'm just, if you would forgive that to my daughter, well, what will she do with that $250,000? So I don't know what her monthly
We've
payments are going to
generated
be.
wealth in
If
our
she
community.
is, if she's going to, now I'll go buy a house, or I'll go buy a
Yeah,
new car,
and
or
groceries
I'll
and
buy more
products.
groceries, or I'll buy products, and that money will start to circulate rather than just going to
Right.
the oligarchs. Going to Jeff, going to Bezos or whoever you want. I mean, I'll pick on Bezos, but
He's fair game.
you can say Elon Musk, or you can say Zuckerman, or whoever.
Musk.
You can go whoever, but rather than going to them and then just stopping, it keeps cycling through. My daughter goes and buys a new car, so then those people put it back in, and it keeps recirculating through, and so.
Well, that's the engine of the middle class, the
But it's
economic engine.
yeah, and we're losing that, and when it comes to healthcare. When
Yeah.
it comes to healthcare, we're
What'd you
losing
do
that.
with it?
So,
Because it's
this is the theme. I think. I think that look at the candidates forum. I thought every question could really be answered in the most general way by describing that phenomenon you just said, and then saying, and that's what we have to change.
The economic
Yeah.
engine of the middle class.
So I want to make you say a controversial word.
no, I won't.
I'm gonna make you do it.
I'm gonna resist.
Just hit the cough button.
No one's gonna make you do anything. Regulation.
That's not the worst thing.
But we have regulations, and the enforcement
Well, yeah.
isn't there.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's just it's like everything else. I'm going to go back to money in politics. I mean, if you're going, I mean, what would it take? I mean, reality is, what would it take to go to Medicare for all or universal single payer health care?
Yeah.
Well, there are Medicare for all bills.
You're going to make someone unhappy. So who is it?
And you're going to make somebody unhappy because all of a sudden there's going to be, there's going to be a lot of insurance companies that
Yeah.
are going to be out of a job very, very quickly. Now, it's not that, they're going to say, well, you can't do this, but, if you're a mining company and all of a sudden, the government comes in and says, look, we'll pay your health care costs, but you can go ahead and provide health care if you want. What are you going to do? Okay, it's real simple. Everyone's going to say, well, we got universal health care, and this is the way it is. I can save money. Yeah, we can talk about the finances, and that's a different thing, but the finances are going to be a whole lot less than what they're paying now. They're going to take the Medicare, they're going to say, look, we'll pay into the pot for Medicare for all for our employees. And because it's a whole lot less than what, and now I will pick on United Health Systems or United Healthcare, or whatever you want to call them, but they're going to go, all of a sudden, well, nobody's buying their insurance anymore because everything's covered. So now they're going to go out of a job, or they're going to be out of business and out of a job.
Lloyd's of London.
And so, the whole thing is those are the people that are fighting against that.
I'm not pretending we're inventing a light bulb here or anything like that, but medical benefits has been profoundly the largest item on the bargaining table between unions and companies for.
Because it matters.
The questions that I've started to ask people, and from one-on-one people, so sort of an example of it when we were down in 33, in SD33, I had a guy come up and we were talking about it, and I said, and I asked him the question. I said, "What would you do if you didn't have to pay for health insurance?"
Oh my God!
And
Just imagine not having
or-
medical data.
Well, if he didn't have to work, and he said,
Yeah.
"Well, I don't work for it anyway because my wife's a nurse, and we get it through her. I'm a construction worker, and my wife is the one that get it." And I said, "Okay, I'm just going to ask, what would your wife do if she
Yeah.
didn't have to work to have health insurance
Yeah.
for your family?"
Right.
And he stopped and he goes, "I think she'd probably stay home with my kids."
Oh my God! That
that
breaks my heart because those are children that are affected.
Well, but it's now some people are going to go to work, and I think that's fine. I mean, some people say no, I'm going to still do the same thing I do. I mean, I'd have done that, because it's my calling in life, whatever you want to call it. I mean, I enjoyed I enjoy being a physician. I enjoy taking care of people. We've talked about that. Some people are going to do exactly what they're doing, but I've asked people and I said, what would you do if you didn't have to work to have or work this job in order to have? I mean, I've got a friend that works for the mines and has worked for his mines all his life, but what he wanted to be is a teacher. And so he went and got his teaching certificate, went through all the education, got his teaching certificate, and still works for the mines.
It's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Because
Because
professions out there.
Yeah.
because he gets paid a lot more to work for the mines than he would to educate
Right.
children.
Right. Can you speak to the idea about jobs? Like just in that context of like, what would you do if you didn't have to?
Yeah.
And the whole prioritizing jobs.
Well, I mean, people look at you and they go, well, maybe I would go start my own company. I mean, if I didn't have to have it for it, maybe I would have cut back. My wife's a quilter, and she always talked about maybe, starting her own business and, having her own quilt store and stuff like that. But that's a big time commitment and everything else. Well, maybe we would have done it. I don't know. I mean, I said I enjoy my job, but there's a lot of people that you ask that question and they go, well, let me think about it. I mean,
I've never thought about that. Yeah.
I mean, think about that. But so, what country has the most indie type software developer companies? Which country?
Ukraine, Israel,
No,
Pakistan,
no, it's Denmark.
Denmark.
India, Denmark.
Denmark.
I could see.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. So now you ask the question why?
Just all the things that Denmark invokes is kind of tell
Yeah.
me.
So because I mean they got universal health, they give grants to people to start businesses. I've got a son that works for Microsoft, and I really think that he's had a couple of offers. So he'd been to Microsoft for a year or two, and his boss was leaving the company, wanted to start her own, maybe not left the company, but sort of scaling back or changing or whatever, and wanted to start her own company and wanted him to come work for her. And he turned it down because he has some job problems, and he was in the middle of getting all that fixed. He says, I can't give up my insurance.
Yeah. And so that's the like freedom of
Self-determination.
mobility and self-determination. Yeah.
I mean, to be able to do the things you want.
Right.
And so that's a question
So is that the difference between Denmark and what we're describing? Is that what?
Well, they've got the ability. That is something that people aren't going to worry about. You're not going to worry about. I mean, if all of a sudden I decide, look, I'm tired of working for the man. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm tired of working and I work for Essentia and I work for Fairview.
No, I love bootlicking.
But I'm tired of working for them. I want to go start my own practice.
Yeah.
One of the things that always stopped me from doing that was I'm going to have to figure out healthcare.
Sure. Yeah.
And
boy, you're not describing something
and
unique
so
there. It's
right,
normal.
but it's a normal thing, and so, but by taking that off somebody's plate, all of a sudden they have the ability to go do what they want to do. The other question I've asked is union people that have been in the negotiations. I said, what would happen if if we could take the fight of healthcare and maintaining whatever you're trying to maintain off of your plate?
What would you then shift your energy towards?
Then what would you shift your energy towards?
Yeah, what would they say?
A lot more community involvement, education. The union has always stood for education, not just of its own people, but in the communities. Things, all the civic type of things.
Well, I mean, civic things, maybe less hours and still get paid.
Better shift schedule.
I want to pretend that we're speaking right now to the U.S. Steelworkers Union, and we tell them that. What would they respond with?
Well, probably time off, more money in their pockets.
Yeah.
More time with their kids.
Yeah.
And that's just the human things that we've
The things that does seem
kind of been denied for the last 30 years.
those seem uncontroversial.
Right.
better fatigue.
Yeah, better circadian rhythm studies.
Better
Well, I was
shift
ta-
rotation.
I was talking to another candidate, and his wife, works in the school system, and actually worked in Duluth. And Duluth had he was saying that their deficit was about $5 million. I mean, Hibbing was $2 million, and down there was $5 million. And so they're having to look at what services they're cutting. But at the end of the day, why are they in a deficit? Is because their healthcare costs keep going up.
Right.
I mean, every year healthcare costs go up, and the benefits go down, and the only way that you sort of break even on that is either get worse health insurance, so it's cheaper. Okay.
So you go from silver to bronze or whatever the
you go from silver to bronze,
Yeah.
or bronze to paper, whatever.
I go to cobalt to cardboard or
or whatever. So you either
I'm in
get
that
worse
cardboard
insurance,
tier, yeah.
which from a union point of view, you're going to fight tooth and nail against that, which rightfully so. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. But then the costs go up, and so now the costs go up. Now you're in a deficit. You got to make the budget, and so now what are you going to do? Well, you're going to we're going to hire less teachers. I mean, what are they? What's the first thing that Hennepin did? Well, they closed 100 beds and laid off 100 people.
Yeah.
Okay. Now you have to understand that by closing 100 beds, that means they can hire less nurses.
Yeah.
We're not talking.
Which is really saying the existing nurses are now doing 3 times as much work.
Well, no, because there are the unions
the
that
beds
come
are-
in.
yeah.
There's only only so many patients they can have.
Well, it's nurses in other neighboring hospitals that are now doing that.
But now those 100 patients go elsewhere. But you're also cutting out some of the most skilled people. It's not just
Right.
janitors and
you've invested in their development of talent
Right,
as a
and-
professional. Yeah.
and
So mortality goes
and so
up.
you're cutting services. So in a school, for example, now you're going to cut services. So what does that mean? Well, instead of having German and Spanish, in order to graduate and get into college, you have to have so much language. And so now instead of having German and Spanish and French and a Native American language, we're going to cut one of those 3.
No, you're going to be left with tennis.
And so you're gonna, you're
Only in Edina.
Sports.
Did I say
right.
that?
You're going to,
Yeah.
you're going to start cutting services, and you're going to start cutting programs, and coming down to the very, very minimal bare just to slide by.
So your healthcare quality is
And so and that's because they're having to pay more and more money for healthcare, and teachers would like a raise once in a while, and cost of living goes up, and so they would at least like to have the same
COLA.
I think before a raise, teachers just want smaller class sizes.
smaller class. But that's the problem
Yeah.
is you've still got the same amount of kids coming in,
Yeah.
and you say, okay, we're going to have to cut 10 teachers.
Yeah. Do you know the difference between 25 and 30 kids? Is
AR-15.
no. Is for a teacher, it's just about 10 kids just not getting one-on-one time.
Well, but also it's then you don't get that one-on-one. And
Right.
what they did in Virginia is they cut para. So now these
I used to be a
kids,
paraeducator.
now
heartbreaking.
these kids that require additional help,
Mm-hmm.
they're not getting it. So now the teachers are having to give them additional help, which means all the other kids are going to suffer.
Right.
It's
Can I ask? I have a question. Can you make a case that regulating the insurance industry would make hospitals more profitable?
I think getting rid of insurance companies would make hospitals more pro. And again,
That's a
it's-
form of regulation. Yeah.
Again, it's you. I'm not saying that at the end of the day that everyone needs to come out with a decent salary. And
Yeah.
whether I made what I should, whether I made less than I should, whether I made more than I should, that's a different, But when CEOs are making nearly the same as your top performing surgeon,
Yeah.
maybe not.
Maybe you should be a CEO.
Maybe I should be a CEO.
Yeah.
Because at least I get nights and weekends off.
Yeah. And that jet, and you get to go to Coachella or whatever. I mean, that's probably a thing.
But and then you get into the larger organizations, the CEOs are making much more.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that that people shouldn't be compensated, but at some point.
Yeah. Maybe the Japanese model.
Are you
would work.
trying to make the implication that there's part of our society that's out of balance?
Grifting?
Maybe.
Okay.
Ethics free.
Can we talk
Grift.
about solutions? Because you're probably gonna.
I got one.
You got a solution?
Yeah.
I wanna. Oh, okay. We know how bad it is. What would you say to that? What do you? Oh yeah. Well, but what are we gonna do about it?
What, for medicine?
We've heard this before.
I mean, medicine, that's Medicare for all. I mean, you know, it's letting hospitals know, you know, it's one thing to, you know, to provide the care. You know what the care is going to cost. You know how much money you've got to come in to provide that care.
Yeah, like
And-
everybody worldwide is getting the same thing.
And it's,
yeah. So
you know,
there's
well,
pricing
but
models.
you can figure out what the care is.
Yeah.
You know, I think for the most part, you know, especially when you get into rural hospitals, they just want to know they're going to get reimbursed for what they're doing.
Yeah.
You know, and so that they don't have to,
That's
so they
basic.
don't have to overprice
Yeah.
drugs, so they get a little extra money so that they can pay for
Yeah.
somebody that needs an appendectomy.
We were talking off camera, I think, but this is an important thing I'd like to include. Is you were talking about profits of hospitals, and what's the percentage that you were? It was like 2 or 3%.
Yeah, so I was on the hospital board. I mean, I was president twice over in Virginia over a period of 7 years. And, you know, the hospital there is about a 50 million, when I was there, was about a $50 million a year hospital.
Right.
And our profit margin on that 50 million, I have to sort of, you know, calculate what that really means. That means that's how we build. And by the time the insurance companies, because, you know, I can send a bill into whatever I want to the insurance company for your appendix, and they're going to send me back whatever they're going to send back.
Right.
And that's by contractual agreement. So,
The AI decided it.
you know, it's, you know, if and so, you know, our contractual agreements, you know, if we build $5 million, which is about $50 million a year, there's about a $5 million a month business. So if we build for $5 million, we generally have about half of that taken off on contractual agreements.
Okay, yeah.
And that's just with the insurance companies. Then after that, you have to write off all your charity care, which is going to be another,
Right.
you know, anywhere from $300,000 to $500,000. But you know, we were a $50 million a year entity, and we were living on about a 1 to 2% profit margin, which means
1 to 2%.
which. And if you start doing the math, you go, well, that's, you know, $1 million.
Oh, that's a
2%.
big number. Yeah.
You know, that
Right.
$1 million is a lot of money. You know, and that's after you've paid all your bills, you've paid the
120
electricity.
people working there.
Yeah.
You know, you've paid your bills, you've paid the electricity, you've paid all your, you know, your vendors and all that other stuff. And so, you know, we were living about the 1 to 2%. So let's say 2% at $1 million.
I want to put it on the camera just to emphasize 1 to 2. There, the camera's
To
like
2%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Just
so $1 million, and you know, most people sit there and go $1 million. Well, that's a lot of money. Okay, then all of a sudden my CAT scanner goes down and I have to replace
Right.
it.
2 million.
And
so this is why we're bringing this
at
up.
$1 million,
because-
you know, a CAT scanner. No, you know, I'm going to pay more than that. Plus, then you have to tear out walls and all the construction and
Yeah.
everything else. You're looking at, you know, a $3 or $4 million project.
I didn't realize that
That's
the
all
budget
true.
of a hospital or the profit of a hospital is your maintenance and expansion and
Yeah, it's that. I mean, that's what it's used for. And again, you know,
Right.
we're paying administration out of that.
Right.
And whether we paid administration more than we should, that's a
Right.
different debate. But
But we were
But
also
at the end of
talking
the day-
off camera about, you know, as surgery technology evolves, you know, we were talking about open to laparoscopy, and then now robotics.
we're going to robots.
So, but that costs money. But why would? Well, you need it because that's how you attract new doctors.
Well, that's how you attract new doctors.
Right.
I mean, you know, when I came out of residency, if I would have applied to Virginia and they said, well, no, we don't do laparoscopic surgery here, I'd have gone, but.
Yeah.
I mean,
right.
they would have never hired another
Right.
surgeon up there. Robotics is
I
coming
think a lot of
into it.
patients would say that too. Like, I'd much rather have a laparoscopy procedure than open.
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, a laparoscopic cholecystectomy, so gallbladder surgery. You go home 2 hours later, and another one you get.
And you have a little scar,
and you have 4 little scars, and open is you got one big scar, and you spend a couple of days.
And that's for the patient. That's money.
And for the patient, it's money.
So this is related to my theme about my question about why wouldn't it be better if hospitals were more profitable? Everything is cheaper for the patient, too, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's however you define profits, but when those profits get turned back into services and into infrastructure, if you want to call it that, buying better CAT scanners and faster CAT scanners, and
So instead of 2%, you were 5%.
And instead of
profit.
I mean, in Hibbing, the CAT scanner there runs literally 24/7. I mean, there's
always some time on it.
There's always, for the most part, there's always somebody in the scanner.
Is that unit from the 80s or something?
And no, I mean, actually, they're getting a brand new one. The one that they had died, and so they're having to put a new one
Big
in.
money, yeah.
And it's big money, and while they're doing that, they're having to pay for a mobile unit.
Portable,
So now you're down, and you're
yeah.
That's why I see the truck driving around all the time.
Yeah.
The mobile CAT scan.
there's the mobile CAT scan, but then they also have the mobile MRI. But now they
mobile
don't have
MRI.
the MRI machine there because I have to have an MRI, or I have to have they've got MR, but it's a PET scan. I'm due for a PET scan the end of this month, and I have to drive to Grand Rapids to get it because they can't have it there because they have the CAT scanner because they're replacing the CAT scanner. So they're losing 3 different ways.
Yeah. And the patient is paying more in all stages of that. Yeah.
And so, if you can, build infrastructure and, let's say you have 2 CAT scanners rather than 1 CAT scanner, so you don't have the wait times and stuff like that. I mean, it's all, the MRI scanner there is completely booked up. I mean, so you can get them emergently, but, if you call up and say, look, I just need a standard MRI, you're looking out 2-3 weeks.
Really?
Wow.
No kidding.
Now, for the United States, that's bad. You go to other places, maybe that's 2-3 weeks. That's great. But
the criticism of things like single payer healthcare has been, look at what they do in Canada. They wait a year for their procedure or something.
Well, they're all happy.
It kind of sounds like we're already doing that.
Yeah.
We're doing it. We're just not accepting it. I mean, it's some of it's unexpected expectations. So I always give the story of my dad. So my father, or my stepdad, he came and visited us.
Right.
It was about September time frame. He came and visited us, and then he went home and twisted his back, and it got worse and worse and worse.
Yeah.
Finally went and saw the doctor.
Sounds like a thing a man would do.
And yeah, I mean, he was pulling the lawnmower out.
Yeah.
And twisted his back, and and it kept getting worse and worse. Finally went to the doctor, and and rather than rushing him off for scans and all this other stuff, and this is completely appropriate, they had him go to PT and see if try to do that.
Yeah.
After 6 weeks, he wasn't getting any better.
Yeah.
And so at that point, then okay, now it's time to start doing the workup. And he ended up having metastatic lung cancer throughout his body. His back was riddled with it.
Just happened
He had hits in his head and everything else. And
Sounds like me.
now, some people sit there and go, well, why did they wait 6 weeks? It made no difference. I mean, the reality is it made no difference.
Right.
And so
That's a medicine thing.
And so some things are
people don't understand about medicine.
Some things are that we do things unnecessarily. So when I grew up, if I would have ever insisted on getting a CAT scan for an appendectomy or for somebody with appendicitis, my staff would have torn me something new.
Right.
We won't say what. But
we've managed to not swear on this pod. It's not a thing that I would care about. It's tangential.
But
the name is ViewsRmine. I can say what I want.
We were very much taught that appendicitis is a clinical diagnosis, and we accepted that if you came in, you had right lower quadrant pain that was getting worse, and the exam was consistent with it. You had a white count, and I went and took your appendix out. If it was it was accepted that I had 20% normal appendixes. I mean, that was just nowadays, I don't even, if the ER calls me up and says, hey, look, I've got an appendicitis here, and I go, what's the CAT scan show? Well, we haven't gotten it yet. We'll go get it.
Right.
And so
This is
it's,
an interesting thing. I would just have this like vision in my mind of like having like a. Can I get my core charge back on that used appendix?
Yeah,
You
I
know?
want that alternator.
But
That's
what
weird.
we're describing is innovation and efficiency, and I think that like we were talking about science before, is that there always isn't like linear progression of like
And it's,
cost reduction
you know,
or efficiency.
and I don't know the last time I took out a normal appendix, and
Yeah.
so you,
I mean,
you
that's
look.
good. That's good.
Well,
yeah.
you know, it's good because you're not doing unnecessary surgery.
yeah.
But you know, what's the cost of it? You know, everyone's getting radiation, getting the scans,
Right.
and all this other stuff, and
If everyone's getting it, does that mean there's sort of like a bulk discount though, or
no,
that's not how it works?
nice try. If you get two of them,
Please.
if you get two of them, you don't get half off on your second one.
What if I tell my friends and neighbors and can I write a Google
No.
review and then
Put it on the computer.
so
It's full price or whatever your insurance
Full
pays.
price.
So in big context, the 20,000 foot view about making, you know, you go from like rural doc where you're one-on-one to representative regional to nation regional, and that's the
Yeah.
the level you're aiming at. What is the action that you take to begin this reform?
You know, it's you got to convince people in Congress, and I think we're starting to. I think that you know, if you know, the first question anyone less than 35 is asking us as they come up and talk to us is do you take APEC money? That is because
what is that really a question about?
what that question is about is can you be bought?
I agree. Thank you for saying that.
Okay, is can your vote be bought for something that is
Right.
not going to benefit your constituents?
Yeah, right.
Okay,
Are
and-
you going to always act in our best interests?
and more and more, and you've got to get enough people in there that we write laws that will circumvent Citizens United or FEC versus Citizens United, which was the landmark decision that said that companies were people
Yeah.
and that they could donate, or countries or super PACs or PACs or whatever. That we either have to reverse that, which, you know, the Supreme Court seems they'll reverse anything these days, but we either need to reverse that or write laws to get around that. And, you know, there are some laws. There's one in Hawaii that was just released. And I think there's also one in, like, Wyoming, if I remember right. It's Wyoming and Montana, they're starting to address the Citizens United issue, but we need to get the funding out so that representatives will do what's in their interest. And so what do I do is, you know, I have to, you know, the reality is I'm running for the House of Representatives. I am one of 435 votes.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so the reality is I'm one of 435 votes, but I can use my voice to form coalitions to say, look, this is wrong,
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is why it's wrong.
Every voice matters.
And
Yeah.
and so get more and more groups or larger and larger groups of representatives that are
Right.
going to say, nope, enough is enough, and we're going to do
Right.
something about this.
When
you know.
when people say I'll fight for blank, right? To me, I think that they need to be saying the thing. And you just said the thing that you would do. The actionable thing is build coalitions and start persuading.
It's
and
build coalition, start persuading. But what I'll tell my constituents, and, you know, this is, you know, the reality that I'm here is to, you know, where do I view on this is I will tell my constituents that when
Yeah.
that when those bills come forward, that I will vote in favor of them. I
Right.
mean, like I said, there are bills sitting in there for Medicare for all, and in both the House and the Senate.
Right.
I think it's 1506 for the Senate, and I don't know what the House bill is.
I got a question.
But, you know, when those bills come forward, I will be one of the votes that will say, yes, we need to have Medicare for all. We may not get the necessary number,
Yeah.
but I will guarantee that my number will be on there.
Right.
I will guarantee that my number or my name will never be on APAC funding.
I got to say how valuable and important that is. I mean, you're telling our little audience just what you said, that you're promising to act in their best interests.
And that's,
Yeah. From what we've talked about before, you've said enough things that make me easily believe that that is an authentic position of yours, that you have enough courage to stand up for what's right and say the thing that is hard to say when it's unpopular.
You know, I've got my Wellstone story, and I'm not going to give the Wellstone story.
We got his book right
Your
there.
Wilson story.
But I mean, I do have a Wellstone story. But
edit this
the
out?
one thing that I learned from Senator Wellstone, and
Yeah.
so I'm active duty at the time.
Yeah.
You know, I'm active duty during 9/11. I mean, I literally watched 9/11 unfold before my eyes.
And
I
you were
was,
active duty.
and I was active duty.
What
down
did
at
that
Offutt.
feel like?
Well, I was also, you know, I was down at Offutt Air Force Base, and I was head of disaster for the hospital because I'd been in Korea, and they had decided that I had been in the real Air Force, and so I knew how to put a disaster plan together.
A real.
Cool, I guess.
And I looked at my colonel and went, "Okay, I'll do it." Yes, sir.
Fake it till you make it.
Disaster.
Yeah.
And so I was doing scopes that day, and I walked downstairs and I watched the plane hit Building 1. And Building 2's on fire,
Right.
and I watched it, and I said, "We're under attack, and we need to lock this place down." And because it's going to get locked down, we need to, you know, stop doing what we're doing. We need to get onto a war footing,
Right.
because we're going to get some directives down that we need to
Yeah.
prepare to do. And within 3 hours or so, you'd have to go look. I'm sure somebody may want to correct me on this, but within 3 hours or so, we got a notification that we had a DV coming in, and it was Bush coming in
Right.
because he came up, and because of Stratcom,
Yeah.
Offutt is the headquarters of Strategic Command, and we had the most secure communications outside of the Pentagon.
Right.
There.
Wow. What an
And
experience.
so, and I was on call. And so that meant that I was going to be locked down in the hospital.
No.
And so I was active duty during that
For
time.
you don't know how long.
And I don't know how well, and yeah, until he leaves, until he's closer to Washington or wherever he's going, I'm
Right.
going to be on call in case anything happens and he needs OR support.
So, for our listeners, we're talking your service in the Air Force,
Yes.
and you're talking about the security of an airspace, right?
No, I'm just talking about the hospital.
I was
because-
guessing, yeah.
No, I'm talking about the hospital.
Just the hospital. Okay, that's good.
That I
Good to
had to
clarify.
be ready to take care of the president on a moment's notice.
Oh, right. Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, and so Bush came in. And
No
Bush left,
pressure,
and
right.
No pressure. And it's funny because I looked at the team that was on call that day and said, "Look, I trust my life to them.
Yeah.
Don't put us in front of a camera."
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
Like-
just going. Just don't.
Yeah. Not our thing. Yep.
Not our thing. Well, I put my life in their hands, and I did.
Yeah.
I'm going to say I did, but
Yeah.
because they were my team when I had surgery there, and so shortly thereafter, Congress, voted to evoke the War Powers Act,
Yeah.
and 2 people voted against it.
Yeah.
Who were those 2 people?
One of them was Bernie. Was it Bernie?
Is Bernie?
Yeah. And Senator
Paul-
Wellstone.
And Senator Wellstone.
Yes.
So those are the 2 that voted against. It was 98-2 vote.
Right.
Now, as an active duty Air Force guy,
Right.
I took that as an affront.
Sure.
I'm,
Yeah.
I'm going to be blunt with that statement.
Yeah.
I took that as an affront that
Yeah.
you're not supporting what I'm doing.
Right.
You're not supporting the troops, and
Right.
and for a while, that bugged me, and Senator Wellstone helped me about a year later.
So you talked to him.
I wrote a letter to him because
Okay, yeah.
the Air Force was not wanting to let me out when I needed to get out, and
Yeah.
when I agreed to get out, and all this other stuff, and so he stepped in and helped. But the one thing that I learned about Senator Wellstone
Yeah.
is whether or not I agreed with his position on whatever he was going to vote upon.
Yeah.
You knew that he was going to vote according to his convictions. Okay? At the end of the day,
Yeah.
he was going to vote according to his convictions.
Yeah.
And as I was getting, so now I moved up here and we're coming up on an election schedule and he's running for, his 3rd term. I said, I'm going to vote for him. And people looked at me and they go, but. And I said, no, I'll vote for somebody that I know will vote his convictions far over
Yeah.
about somebody that's going to vote for whoever's paying him the most or
Yeah,
whatever
yeah.
it is. that's what I have to offer people.
Right. Right.
I have the, that at the end of the day, some people aren't going to like the way I vote.
Right.
Some people aren't going to agree with a vote or a choice, but I'll sit down and tell them exactly why I did it. And at the end of the day, it's going to be, no, I did what I think was right for the constituents which I serve.
Right. Okay. You hearing that gives me chills. We've been talking a lot. That is personally the most important thing to me, that you will stick your flag in the sand and say, this is my line that I will not cross.
Yeah. Well, I did that.
Yeah.
I did that. It's, we were off camera a little bit, and my son was talking, that when I announced my run, we had a gentleman call up and say, hey, look, I've looked at everything that you've done, but you've got to really get off of this Medicare for all. It's too socialistic. No. And
it's worth fighting for.
And I looked at him and said, nope, that's in the sand. I'm not gonna budge off of that one.
Right.
That is what I'm about.
I think I know the rest of the story. What then happened?
Yeah, and then what happened? We actually sat down and talked about it, and sort of talked about the healthcare crisis we're in. And he did a 180 turn and said, not only is that, yes, you understand this, and yes, you're right, but this needs to be the only thing you talk about. There's other things we talk about, because I said I'll talk a little bit more about money and politics than.
Yeah, right. Like we've talked about. Sorry, I can't hear your mic. We've talked about this a lot in the context of mining regulation, in that if you don't ask for it, you're guaranteed to not get it. If you ask for it, there's a chance you'll get it. And it's more important to say, this is what we want. We're going to ask for what we want. And I think that at the point of looking at rural hospital healthcare collapse, we don't really have a choice. We have to say we need this or we want this.
Well, it's gonna get there. We can either do it now, as I've got a letter to the editor that I'm going to send out, but it's maybe get a little notoriety, and we can either do it now or do it later. I mean, we can do it before the collapse, and keep the services that we have.
The fact that you said it's going to happen before the end of the election is significant.
But at the same time, we can do it after the fact.
Sure. That sounds expensive.
When the entire healthcare system goes down, when nobody can afford it and nobody can get access to it, hospitals are closing left and right, and then you're going to have to come in and rebuild the system. And that's going to be much more expensive than just taking care of it.
What would Wellstone do?
What would Wellstone do?
Yeah, what would he do? What would he be doing right now? He'd still be on the Senate floor, right?
He'd still be on the Senate floor, and him and Bernie Sanders be there saying healthcare for all, or Medicare for all.
Yeah, right. Because it matters.
Because it matters.
Would he still be driving the bus?
I'd hope so.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's
slower.
just iconic.
Yeah.
It's $5 a
Is
gallon.
there room right now in our very rural Minnesota Iron Range ecosystem for a new version of the bus? Like, should a candidate? Do you need a bus? Maybe. I know a guy who has a bus.
I like my orange Jeep.
Well, that'd be all right. Yeah, I like that.
But I think that I think people, I think that, when we talk, because, you look at, people ask, well, how are you going to flip the area and stuff like that?
Right.
And, that this area's historically been blue, and now it's red, and everything else. I think people just need to feel that their representatives are truly representing them.
Right.
That we're not. There's always things we're going to disagree on, but there are things that we agree on. We agree that the economy is in shambles right now.
Right.
I mean, you go to the store. I was talking to one of the students down
At UMD,
and I was talking about, when I was young, when I was in college, I was working for $3.10 an hour, but I could pay for, my rent. I could
$3.10.
$3.10.
Buck
But I
85
could,
here.
but I
Buck
could,
85.
but I could pay for
Holy
my,
cow.
but I could pay for my rent. It took me a week to pay for my rent.
You're kidding.
Nope. My rent was about $100 and something a
Yikes.
month. I could put gas in my car. I could put food on my table, and I could save for college.
Yeah.
And I could do that at $3.10 an hour.
It's not just that the dollar's lost value. It's that things are going to say artificially more expensive than they should
Well, it's not that artificial, it's just that we don't get paid what we should.
be. Right. We're not compensated. Yeah.
In order for you to have the same buying power
Right.
as I did, you'd need to make about, depending on your housing costs, and it
Yeah.
really depends on housing costs,
Right.
but you'd have to make anywhere from $30 to $60 an hour.
Yeah, that's very hard for. Okay, so as a young person, I remember trying to apply for jobs where the joke is, this is in 2010 and 11, where the joke is that you need to have like 3 years of experience for a first year position somewhere. Well, and now it's even more.
Well, but it's
Yeah.
but I mean, you're
not going to get that.
And,
out of the
that,
butt,
that was
yeah.
a minimum wage job, so I mean, it wasn't, I
Right.
mean, it was pushing a broom at the university.
Yeah.
So let's just be honest.
Right.
But and he looked at me and he says, my entire week's salary went to putting gas in my car.
Yeah, yeah.
So the economy, I mean, we can't afford the things we need. We can't afford
Right.
the necessities. We've got to fix our economy. So
Right.
when you talk to people, I mean, everyone here, you go to the store and food's more expensive. I mean, go buy a steak. I mean, if
In this economy,
right.
Like
And
that.
I mean, I don't even do that anymore. I
Yeah.
buy hamburger, okay,
Right.
but there's people that are struggling to buy hamburger,
Right.
and so it's so things cost. I mean,
Right.
gas is going. So let's be real. The commodity prices are going up because of tariffs. Okay.
What?
No,
No.
not at all.
This is uncontroversial at this point. Get with the program.
I know.
I don't even want to.
Fuel prices are going to go up, and they're going to go up and up
Yeah.
and up because
It's killing me right now.
because we haven't even started to see the real impact of
Yeah.
of the blockades and everything.
Right.
What's going on there? Because
Fuel.
it takes 60 to 90 days for that oil to get here.
Yeah. There's that lag.
There's a
Yeah,
lag,
yeah.
and so that lag's going to hit. But
Right.
But the
fuel,
prices come right away.
yeah, but they're going to go up a lot more.
Yeah,
So,
we should have been stockpiling fuel like John Denver.
but never mind. I'm not going to say.
Views are mine.
But so fuel prices are going up. So the economy is a shambles. So that's something that I think you can talk across the political boundaries to. Everyone understands. that.
Yeah,
Everyone
these are uncontroversial and popular things.
Everyone understands the problems with healthcare. I mean, it's outrageously expensive to get healthcare. I mean, especially with the rollback on the ACA.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, insurance that was $100 a month is going to go
Right.
up to several $1,000s a month.
Yeah,
For some people. I mean, Idaho is sort of one of those, people are paying $100 a month, and I was going to go to $4,000 a month. And how people can't afford that, okay?
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're at a healthcare crisis, and what's
Right.
going to happen? You're still going to get sick, you're going to the hospital, we've talked about that. So, but healthcare is one of those things, and I think, people are starting to understand that
Yeah.
that this problem of money in politics is really what's driving a lot of this other stuff.
You know what's kind of wild is the DFL talks a lot about flipping stopper voters, right? But like Trump literally campaigned on draining the swamp, which is exactly what you're saying is getting money out of politics, and that was, I guess you could probably just say that's a lie, right? But in other words, what I'm saying
didn't
is
turn out.
I don't even think you're trying to
Can
flip.
I swear?
Yeah, hell yeah.
Hit
He
the
drained the
cop
swamp, then shit in it.
Yeah. I mean,
Okay, let's
that's-
just be blunt.
It's real deep. It's like he replaced it with
With human feces.
yes.
Well, we'll keep it medical.
I've got
The medical term.
I've got a way to get you out of this. Wellstone, right? You were saying, is there any way to replicate the bus and his?
A funny motorcycle.
So his famous quote was that we all do better when we all do better, right?
Yeah.
Which is basically focusing on how to get the economic engine of the middle class roaring again. So how do you unleash that where we've just suffered it so much? And then you get the bus.
Yeah, and then you get the bus. But, I mean, again, like I said, you've got to get, you've got to get enough people into Congress, and that's both on the House and the Senate, and preferably in the presidency, too, and then all of the other branches and everything else. I mean, it's, it's been a problem that's been brewing for for decades and the way things have gone for decades.
Right, yeah.
But you've got to get people in there that are going to truly put their constituents first and truly vote in their best interests and start to undo this. And
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, like
It's-
we're kind of thinking about repair, right?
yeah, it's
Right.
not, yes, it's going to be hard because unfortunately, I mean, you look at how many people take APAC money, and and it's across both parties.
Yeah, right.
It's not like just one party. So okay, we just get a bunch of Democrats
That
in
would have
there,
been easy to say that.
and
But it's Chuck Schumer
but it's a lot of it, and yeah, the draws there and everything else. But if you get that out, then you can start to say, look, what is it that our constituents want? Our constituents want, a healthy, thriving economy that they can afford the things that they need and would like. And that drives the economy. You have that money circulating around. They want to have health care. They want to have a roof over their head. They need affordable housing, and good affordable housing. They don't want to live in something that they're pumping $1,000 of fuel oil to try to heat during the winter up here.
Right.
And so they want jobs. They want jobs that are good and secure and that pay well and that are not susceptible to the market. I mean, unfortunately, mining, and I've lived up here for 24 years.
Yeah.
There's good years and there's bad. There's good 2 or 3 years and there's bad 2 or 3 years.
We know that in our family well.
And so you need to get other, and mining's important. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Mining will always be important up here, but you need to get other industries up here. You need
Like
to get,
in other words, diversify. The industries,
diversify
right?
their industries, get a broader economic base, and that's across both blue collar and white collar.
As an observer of Iron Range development in the last 20 years, it seems that the powers that be up here have worked in every capacity they have to prevent diversification of industry up here. They've viewed everything that isn't mining as a threat.
And it's a lot. I mean, you look at and I somewhat get it because we look at it from today. Okay, let's say that let's say a solar panel company comes up here and builds a big plant and is offering good wages and good benefits and all those other things. There's only so many people that live up here, and so now the mines aren't going to have enough people to try it. So I can sort of understand that, but because unfortunately most people leave. The young people grow up and they leave.
I mean, that's not a unique thing. That's rural America. But what would have?
But why?
What would have changed that?
But why is it that people don't like rural America?
Well, this is
Depends on who you ask. I mean, I think young people want to like rural America, but they can't afford to live here.
So you've got to make it affordable. You've got to have industry up here. You've got to have the the infrastructure up here. So there's
you got to be able to raise a family up here.
You got to be able to raise a family. So you need health. You need the health benefits up here. You need a few restaurants. Someplace to go out and eat. I mean, if you're making enough money, you would like to go someplace other than McDonald's.
Should be able to go shopping in your
you would like to do shopping. Now, when we moved up here, my wife quickly found Amazon, and hey, this is great. I don't have to go anywhere.
Right.
And it gets delivered the next day. For us, but for a lot of people, they would like to have a little bit more of that stuff. Mm-hmm. You'd like to have access to the cities without a 3-hour drive.
Yeah, right.
Let's say that you put high-speed rail, you could be down in the cities in an hour and a half.
What about being able to work from home and have internet?
Well, and I talk about that because so I live 6 miles north of Virginia. It's almost exactly 6 miles north. And when I built the house up there, you know what I had for internet?
Was it a tin can with a string?
Not much better. Not much worse than that. No, I mean not much better.
It was pre-DSL, right?
Well, it's pre-DSL. It was basically a radio antenna. It was basically Wi-Fi B.
Okay, so this is like not quite break 19, but yeah.
Okay, and so then we finally got DSL in there, and it started off at 10 down, I think 10 down, and whatever up it was, and
In the afternoon, maybe.
yeah, and through the years it went to 40 down, and we're power users. I mean, I've got kids that are very much power users. I've got a kid that works for Microsoft.
Right. Every student, public or otherwise, every single student is that.
Right.
Because they're all required. I mean, I think
all
my generation or my class even was the last one
I
that
had
had
a friend.
online.
I had a friend that their son was doing online stuff, and they had to drive into our church
Yeah.
to have enough Wi-Fi to
Yeah.
do his assignments.
That is such a absolute, like a lot of kids that I taught when I lived in Washington, like their phone is the only internet they have
Yeah.
at their, and this is like, it's not, anyway, anyway.
And so now fast forward to October of last year,
Right.
and
Here,
because of Obama,
Right.
and because of Biden,
Right.
I now have fiber.
Oh, you have fiber?
I have
Come
fiber.
to your house. Wow.
Yes, I have
Oh.
fiber, and so now
Yeah, that was rural infrastructure investment.
now, and so now if my son, so he lives in Atlanta, if my son wanted to move up here because he works remotely,
Right.
I mean,
And
he lives in Atlanta,
go where the fiber goes.
and his entire team's in Washington,
Yeah.
in Redmond there, but so he can work anywhere in the world that he wants as long as he can log in.
Yeah.
And he could come live here, and
That's that's part of the diversification.
and that's
of
part of the
industry,
diversification is number one, you've got to encourage work from home. So
Right.
COVID is interesting. So
Right? It really demonstrated that.
well, what
there was
COVID really showed is that a lot of people, I mean, even within a hospital environment, obviously I couldn't do my job
Right.
remotely, but
the
there's
robot, maybe.
no, the robot maybe, but there's a lot of people that could do that. They don't need to take up space in the hospital. They could do it from home, and a lot of people like that.
Right.
Now that does cause some problems. So that happened down in the cities. So sort of take a quick jump off of this, but down in the cities, and then all of a sudden you had all of these businesses that were letting their employers work from home, and then when COVID went away, what happened? Well, they never came back. They still work from home. Now you got all these empty offices, and now you have all these downtown businesses that were dependent on all of those people.
Yeah. Right.
Okay.
So there's trade-offs. I mean.
And so now they're screaming to the governor, and the governor's saying, "Hey, look, you either got to use your office space or you got to give it up, and everything else."
Counterpoint. Those people have more free time to travel to shop, though.
But
Yeah,
you
but
can get it in a box.
But they live in Edina. They're going to stay in Edina.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
they're
So
not going to go
never mind,
downtown.
Yeah.
And so you got to figure out ways around that. But this work from home ability, if you could work from home and you want to live in rural America,
Right.
a little bit slower life,
Yeah.
do
Do you know?
Virginia's great.
Do you know where there was a interesting phenomenon of it was like a real estate magazine I read. There was a boom of real estate by a specific demographic in a weird area, and it was young people like 20 to 30 in the Yukon. And they had invested in rural infrastructure to the point that they had fiber, and they were able to work from home and live in the Yukon.
Yeah.
So it's a thing that
But it is
Minnesota could have had.
Well, Minnesota could have it, and and people want that. People don't want to live.
Right.
There are some people that want to live downtown New York. Don't get me wrong about that, but there are a lot of people that don't want to live downtown New York.
Right.
But they
want to
have
work there.
to.
Yeah.
But they have to because that's where their job is.
Yeah.
And so, so you can build rural America and you can build those services, and and once you sort of start to encourage that and get that infrastructure and diversify, then you pull more people in across the border.
To me, it sounds like when the opponent, the Stauber supporters say things like jobs, what you're talking about, we're talking about now with investment in rural infrastructure. That's the answer. Is that jobs are important, but they're not going to come from your solution. They're going to come from what we're talking about with rural investment.
Yeah, you've got to get people back in because unfortunately, I mean, let's be blunt. Stauber's been in there for 8 years.
I love being blunt.
But Stauber's been in
8 years.
for 8 years, and for 8 years he's promised more and more mining jobs.
Yeah,
and there
well,
are less and less mining
Less and
jobs.
less mining jobs, Stauber.
Well, but
Yeah.
but why is there less? It's not because the jobs aren't there. It's not because we're not producing more mine.
Tariffs.
Well, the jobs aren't there, but it's because every time there's a shutdown, they go buy bigger trucks. Every time there's a shutdown,
with
they're
no drivers in them.
Yeah,
with
the
no-
autonomous
with-
trucks. Yeah.
and now they're going to be autonomous. And they invest. They invest in mechanization, and so this is the reason that there's no more job. But you've got to diversify. You've got to
Right.
say, look, okay, what are other things that we can bring up here that use the same skill set? Again, as I don't think, my son and I talk about this. Sometimes people say, "Oh, we'll just teach you to be a computer programmer." If you wanted to be a computer programmer, you'd have done that
Would
right
be
out of
being a computer programmer.
That's what you would do. No, you like doing what you're doing.
Now you got to be one to
Yeah.
get out there.
Yeah.
You like doing what you're doing.
I don't want
and
to be
so you
told
want
what I
that.
like doing.
Right.
Yeah.
It's I want to do. I want to work with my hands. I want to do something. Maybe more physical or whatever.
Yeah.
That's not what miners want to do, and so
Right.
that was sort of a stupid statement.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that you can't bring other things up here to help.
Right. Like what we're talking about how much the work from home availability would open up
Yeah.
for jobs. For
Well, it's
people.
just like my friend. I mean,
Right.
if he could have, he would have gone to teach.
Yeah, I love that. the way
versus-
you-
but
what would you have rather done? Yeah.
And so it's you want to do those things,
Right.
and you want to do what you want to do, but you've also got to have the jobs up here to do it.
Right.
That's it.
And so okay, so now we're talking about I think persuasion, like I think a lot of the things that we've discussed are appealing to people universally.
Yeah.
Or universal.
And so you just got to, as I tell you, you got to. I just got to get in front of people. I got to get in front of people and say, look,
Right.
this is who I am.
Please click
This is-
like and subscribe. Share with your
You
friends.
know,
yeah.
this is who I am. This is
Yeah.
what I stand for.
Right.
I do have flags in the sand. I'm not
Yeah,
bought.
good. I like those
It's,
flags, yeah.
it's like I said in the forum, and I'll say, I do have a track record of not being bought. Mm-hmm. And back
Good.
before I even thought about doing this,
Yeah.
I can show
Right.
that,
Yeah, there's some value declaration that goes on when you're a hospital administrator, or just even you were chief of medicine.
No, I mean
Chief of
I've
surgery?
been chief of surgery. I've been chief of medicine, but
That's-
the whole thing is so back around long time ago, people they just came in and it was what it was. But about the 2000 era, everyone decided that money in medicine was a bad thing.
Yeah,
The
right.
drug reps were evil. They were coming in and doing whatever. That
We're getting a signal here from. Okay. We've just been directed by the official Wendell Smith campaign director department to look at the openpaymentsdata.cms.gov for
Yeah.
the Wendell Smith.
and
Page,
so
yeah.
so back in about 2000 there was this big push. So I was like,
Thank you.
so I was at Ascension. There was this one of the physicians was very much on, we got to get drug reps out because all they're doing is polluting our mind.
Right.
That they were coming in and taking up our time and buying us a sandwich for $5 because that's what it was back then, and that they were affecting the way that we were prescribing.
Right.
That $5 sandwich, that if you came in and said, hey, look, I got the greatest drug in the world and here's a $5 sandwich, that now you're going to prescribe that
That's
more.
what
than
you
anybody.
said that during the forum.
Here's
Yeah.
my $5.
Yeah. But a $5 sandwich was going to
hold
was
that up
going
there
to
the.
Oh,
was going to influence the way I prescribed.
it's spiking.
And so there was this big push to get drug reps out.
I mean, how hungry are you? I guess. How much influence?
Well,
Was it a good
How
sandwich?
did it work?
No, it was usually Subway.
I saw baby Jesus eating a
No,
sandwich.
I mean, up here it was Subway,
Yeah.
or they buy pizza or whatever.
Wow, that's what they think of you. Maybe it would influence you, but in the negative.
And
way.
so I can show that I'm not, and so what they, starting in 2018, and you go to it and look, that the they've been tracking it now, and what happens is whenever drug or instrument representatives come in, that they have to declare what they give you. And if you look,
okay, here we go.
and if you look at it, scroll down a little bit more.
You've gotten 81
Yeah, there
bucks in two payments.
there were 2 lunches, and it was 2002.
82 lunches for $81 is actually pretty inexpensive.
So go up, go up, and so if you look there at the graph.
Oh, I see the graph. Right. Yeah.
So,
you
you
can
know,
hover over this, and
Yeah, you can hover over it, and so
Right.
the average. Go down a little bit so I can see the scale.
Yeah.
So the U.S.
Oh, I see. You're that. Wait, you're not on the scale.
No, I am. I'm at the bottom.
You're at
There
the
it is.
bottom.
I'm
There's
at the
your
very-
peak.
There's my there's my
Oh,
81
right there
bucks.
with Clarence Thomas.
There's my 81 bucks.
So, ladies and gentlemen, you're looking at a visualization here
Oh my god.
That
not being bought.
that I'm not being bought. I haven't
Graphs
taken
to prove
anything.
it, yeah.
That the average general, that the average
The average.
stock
Yeah.
takes anywhere from 3,000 to 5,000.
Wow.
A year.
And the average general surgeon takes around $3,000 a year.
Why are specialists below the U.S. average? Are there just like some docs that are just like
Because I think that the
Equivalent.
family practice stocks, I'm not
because boats are expensive?
because I think that they just get in more with family practice
Okay,
stocks.
yeah.
Because they're the ones, I mean,
It's the plastic surgeons
I,
that are.
I prescribe like about 4 drugs. I mean, reality, and
Yeah.
pain pills and antibiotics.
BC headache powder.
Take
a
don't
salt
do a lot of
tablet.
the other ones, but yeah.
You know,
so
that kind of doc.
so yeah, I took and actually that was it's food and beverage. I don't even know where
Here,
that
let's
came from.
just as a little study in contrast. Let's go. Follow the money. Don't you love snooping on your opponents?
No, that's fine.
Follow the money for
Senator Rick
Stauber.
Scott.
How much has he had in a while? Here is he's gotten 2,719 donations.
For $2 million bucks.
Yeah, is that 2
Almost
million?
3.
Is that 2 million? Yeah.
It's $2 million.
All right. I can't read this because it's too little. Hold on.
Just scroll. Yeah.
All the words. Okay. What does this word say?
Undisclosed.
Unitemized.
Oh, well, that's yeah.
Oh,
no,
wait,
that's
here's a bag of money.
but that's totally fine. I'm sure that's fine. Yeah.
Holy cow! 700.
Yeah, you got to go out and look at his APAC.
Do we want to? I don't know. I'm scared. This is actually just tangentially. I've been showing this to everybody. My preferred thing is looking at the govtrack.us. There's a report card made up for every candidate, or every representative in the House and the Senate. And I love looking at this. Is that just in general? This is Pete Stauber's report card. He's got the third fewest bills with bicameral support.
Boy, I'm glad he's
Co-sponsored
at
the
the
third
bottom.
fewest bills. Got the third fewest co-sponsor. He's got their bills out of committee the 21st most often. So he's been in there 8 years, and he actually hasn't done more than 3 things. And a couple of them were like assigning a rural
So it
post
could have
office.
been a lot worse. is what
Sure,
you're saying.
but I think that this selling out our public lands
Well, I mean,
is the biggest thing he's
he
ever
votes
done.
against infrastructure bills and takes credit for it.
Yes.
Oh, he cheats at hockey too.
Yeah, well, I mean, the newest one is, he at least signed off, he at least sponsored the one that's currently
For the
here, but then it's linked to getting rid of PLA. It's not going to go to PLA. So his answer to that is rather than go fight for PLAs, is to come and say, well, just lift that restriction so you can get the money.
Deregulation, yeah.
So I made a list here, and it's probably more indicative of how complicated we're talking about making something to raise the economic engine of the middle class. You've got to address a whole bunch of oopsies, right?
Well, you gotta have jobs. You've got to get money into circulation.
Infrastructure.
You
gotta
gotta
have
do
opportunity,
infrastructure.
All the things that we talked about.
tax incentives. I mean, tax incentives are across the border. I mean, if you're going to incentivize companies to come up, to come to rural Minnesota, then you think about the things that we can bring up here that we need. I mean, you go to the CHIPS Act, and you have a Biden. And what was the CHIPS Act? It was like, look, we will give you incentives to put into infrastructure here in the United States, and we'll give you those incentives. But the downside the other side is you can't reinvest in foreign companies, and so
Or stock buyback.
So in other words, the money has to.
it has to stay here,
yeah.
and we'll get, and we need to start making chips here in the United States.
That was just as a tangent. Currently, there's a RAM shortage, for computer memory and just chips in general are now part of this insane AI boom that happened after that CHIPS Act, and we would have been positioned to
But,
be.
and so you're investing to have people to put in. You could stretch that out a little bit and say, look, we need to go into underrepresented areas. So
Right.
you don't have to do it in Silicon Valley. You could do it maybe in rural wherever. And so you can do that. You look at the lumber industry. You look at plywood industry. Where are the places that we get our plywood from? Well, we get them from Russia, and we get them from China or from Canada.
Yeah, Canada.
So those are the two areas that we get plywood from.
Right.
Well, where does the wood come from? I mean, we
Right.
walk outside the door.
Right.
Why are we shipping wood
Right.
other places?
There's a statistic related to that. It's either tuna or just salmon in general or something. It's cheaper to fish for sushi grade. Fish, send it to China to be processed and send it back.
Well, they do that. They do that with cattle. I mean,
Yeah, right,
Back
right.
on ships.
they ship the cow to China, they
Right.
process, and they send it back to us. And
Right.
but it's things like that. And yes, then there's. We were talking. My son and I were talking about that as we drove over. Yes, there are more costs. So again, it comes into this capitalistic thing.
Yeah.
We want the most money that we can, and so we want to. We make material here, so we make denim here in the United States. We ship it down to Mexico to make our jeans. Then we bring it back because the labor down there is cheaper. And so you've got to have some type of incentive. And he was talking about, like batteries in Switzerland. Switzerland's very patriotic. You put made in Swiss, made in Switzerland.
Has a stamp of pride, yeah.
And it's a stamp of pride, and people will buy that preferentially, even though it costs more money. And same thing, made in the USA. I mean, we do have pride in that. And we have to extend that out. That maybe it costs a little bit more, but if it's made in the USA, it's a better quality and all those other things. And so,
Well, that's what Sam Walton was trying to do.
but you've got to do that, but you've got to have the infrastructure to do that, and you have to invest in that infrastructure. And you have to invest in that so that the companies will come and do that. Otherwise. And until the tariffs hit and then everything collapses. But, right now we don't have the ability to do that. We couldn't if all of a sudden China cut us off from all our chips, or, if the world cut us off from all the chips we have, we'd be dead in the water.
Right, right.
All analog.
What else is on your list over there?
Well, the tax incentive. I mean, it's an incentive for billionaires, right? It's not.
Well, yeah, I mean,
If you put money in a consumer's pocket.
I saw something from Bernie Sanders, and Bernie Sanders always has something coming out. He says if you paid $1 in federal taxes, you paid more than the following companies.
Oh yeah, I saw that too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just I mean. We're paying for it. I mean, my taxes paid for it, but tax incentive. I mean,
And the opportunities you said, that when you miss out on future opportunities to change and just do something different, that affects it. Education.
I mean, education. Education is very important. I mean, so actually in the 1800s, the late 1800s is when the United States came out and said that we need to provide education for, a high school education for everybody.
Right.
Though it wasn't until the 1920s when all the Child Labor Act or all the child labor laws started coming in that basically, forced kids to go to school and not work, that we started to have that high school education become more and more universal.
Can I correct you? It's not forced them to go to school.
Gave them the
instead of
opportunity.
work. No, it's forced them to go to school instead of dying at work. Yeah.
But I mean,
Yeah.
it's
Point of order, I guess, yeah.
right? But you can't work,
Right.
So now let's get you to school,
Right.
And so now we have that. Now today, So it's because at that point we valued a high school education, and we said that a high school education was necessary to become functional in society.
Yeah, kind of like the minimum that people should
This is
know.
the minimum that people should know.
It was like saying this is what common sense is.
All right.
Yeah.
Now today, that minimum is a lot higher.
Yeah.
You
Oh
know.
my God. Thank you. The thing that the kids, the amount that the kids have to know. Oh my God.
Yeah, but I mean, think about it. Even to go be a mechanic nowadays,
Yeah.
you've got to understand computers.
Right.
You got to understand how to
Yes.
program it, because I mean, if you got an LS engine or Coyote or whatever,
The first thing you're doing is plugging it into.
you're plugging it in and having to understand how the computer works and how it interacts and how it adjusts to things.
Yeah.
It's all computer controlled. It's not. It's not setting points anymore. It's
Right.
it's not setting timing. It's not doing all that. That's all done electronically now. And so you have to understand that. So really, to become functional in society, you're going to have a post-high school education. And whether that's trade school, whether that's university, whether that's, even post-university, so, medical, pharmacy, or whatever, the biggest bang for our buck is our education.
Yeah, as an investment.
As an investment
for society.
For society, it's education. So we need to invest in education.
So
until
you were talking about what class would you eliminate because you got to get rid of math or whatever, something like that. It would seem to be, and I think you said it before.
football.
No, that learning a foreign language is really important.
ViewsRmine.
But see, learning a foreign language, because you learn to communicate, you learn you learn something about other people. Computers. I mean, computers teach so much. I mean, just learning a programming language, you learn to be structured.
Right.
You learn,
You learn
critical
algebraic
thinking.
thinking. Like if I do this plus this.
Yeah, I mean, my first computer class. So in college, I took computers, took some computer programming class, and one of my first teachers walked in and said, "Look," and this was back in the day of Fortran and Snowball and COBOL and BASIC. Yeah, that's
Wow.
that's how old I am.
Yeah.
He says, "Look, I
Punch
don't."
card.
He says, "I can teach you to program in any language. All the languages is syntax.
Yeah,
what I'm
yeah.
going to teach you is to how to critically think, how to how to step your way through a problem,
Exactly.
and then you can go look up the code to do it."
Ah, that's beautiful. And so
And-
when did you learn that? What about what decade?
The 1979.
Okay, I'm making a point about that because when I was in Washington in a school, my ex was a math teacher and she taught computer science, and she told her kids the same thing.
You can teach any program, any programming language, but what you have to do is learn the critical thinking to step your way through a problem. So, every subject brings. I mean, I think humanities are important. Now, it teaches us where we've been, so maybe we don't make the same mistakes that history has done.
Isn't trivial.
Or
That
we
is
don't all
important.
end up being engineers or
and
something.
but I think music classes are important. But they don't even have phys ed anymore. I mean, just get out and run. We're not saying be for football, but just get out and exercise and run and crawl.
Or learn a skill like how to we're in Hibbing. I guess that doesn't matter at this point anymore. But for anonymity. But when I was in grade school, I learned how to cross country ski.
Yeah.
And that was a life skill. So
Well,
that
it's a
was
life skill.
that's what you're talking about.
And you learn those life skills. You go to shop and you learn not to cut your fingers off.
Right.
You learn to make things, and all of a sudden, hey, this is sort of fun, and I still do it.
If my dad was here, he would put this on the list. He would say that the rising star of the middle class was being able to build wealth.
Yeah, I mean,
Personal
again,
wealth.
So
Well,
that would
it's-
be the opposite of debt, right?
Well, but it's making sure that that your kids are a little bit better off than you are, and that's how I.
Yeah, so
That's actually what
you're-
he told
you're
us,
building
his
something.
grandkids.
Yeah. Justice, everything. It's like we need casino house rules for
Oh, that's another item is justice. Yeah.
Well, and justice. I mean,
Just laws, yeah.
we are a country of law. I mean, we're supposed to live by the rule of law, which means that law is the same for every person, and that we, and obviously what we've seen lately is that's not the case in the United States right now.
Rules for thee, not for me.
And you've got people that come into Minneapolis, and they've got masks on their faces, and they're not being held accountable, and they're doing horrendous things. I mean, people are dying, people are being kidnapped. I mean, we live by the rule of law, and and they do it under a pretense that there was not to pick on podcasters, but there was a podcaster that came in and said, there's all this fraud going on.
No, pick on that guy, please.
And but the problem is we live by a rule of law, and what that means is if there's an allegation, then we look into the allegation, and if the allegation seems valid, then there's an investigation. If there is
that's called reasonable cause,
right? And then you have an investigation. If there's enough to press charges, then you press charges, and if there's a conviction, then you move down that road. If there's not a conviction, then you forget it and you move on. And that is the rule of law.
Yeah, and do you know why we developed that system as opposed to taking the law in your own hands? Was a little old thing called the Salem witch trial.
Yeah. So but those are the principles that we live, and we have to live by those.
So we got to get something back. I think that the most reprehensible thing I can possibly think of is that the United States is building gulags for 10,000 people.
Well,
and they've just ordered a whole bunch of incinerators. So what the heck's that,
Well,
What?
Incinerators.
Well, I'm out of the loop that much that I didn't know about this.
But no, I mean,
Hold on, I have to reconcile that.
But it's just this. It's just a rule of law, and it's this, it's this fascist state that we find in. I mean, you got to sit down with my son and talk to him a little bit. He'd spent 2 years in Germany, and
Oh, I didn't know. That's cool.
Doctor, we didn't at the forum the other night. We didn't hear any discussions about ICE, and I don't really think we're going to get into that tonight. But there's something else that really rankles me here on the Iron Range and just about anywhere else you go. What we're talking about here is all pretty expensive stuff. We all have understand what money is all about. But the highest income tax rate ever was 94%. Okay, the highest corporate tax rate ever was 52.8%. The highest wealth tax. We don't have a wealth tax.
no.
Oh,
But
sure. Yeah.
I think what we probably should do to generate a pretty large supply of money,
Fix this.
and not besides kicking the lid off of the Social Security system, the tax rate beyond 197 or whatever it is right now, up to 400,000. That's one thing. That's a separate issue. But some kind of a graduated program of freeing up this frozen money that the billionaires have socked away. It's not a lubricant to society. It's not doing any good.
I mean, it doesn't
Socked
trickle
away.
down?
It goes into the stock market and they're churning.
Yeah.
I bet.
And we also got to be careful not to dump money in here so that it topples the economy or disturbs the stock market or anything like that. But the word that really kills me is socialism, and the stab to the heart that does to people all over the place when corporate socialism is such a rampage.
Well, it's I mean, there's all sorts of issues there. I mean, let's be honest. Walmart's paying their employees minimum wage. They're working them less than 20 hours, so they don't have to pay benefits. And then we have to supplement those employees for their health and with food stamps and everything else because they're not making enough money.
Yeah, I'm not trying to put you on the spot. I'm just throwing some of these recipes out here.
But and so Walmart's making a ton of money, and we're supporting their money, and that's got to stop. It's just it's
unjust.
It's just unjust, and again, I talk about if you start charging, if you go to universal health care and you start charging corporations, X amount of dollars for every employee they have, and so that's a tax, and all of a sudden they go, well, if I hire 2 people, I get twice the. Now they can start having full-time employees. Maybe the employee can actually make enough money to start living.
Yeah.
Maybe now as a full-time employee, they can get some other benefits, so retirement and all these other things, so that they can come off a lot of these programs. And that's just because now we've taken health care, or we're starting to charge for health care for those people, the companies, just on a per-person basis. I mean, if you've got a business and and you've got to pay on a per person basis, are you gonna hire part-time employees or full-time employees?
Of course, and it goes on every day.
And it's just, back to healthcare and back to universal healthcare, taking that off the plate.
Right.
And it does that. But yeah, I mean, you're talking about, we've got to get the money back into circulation. The oligarchs, I mean, yes, you can't take their money out and also, but you've got to be able to.
Oh, that was my rock
Yeah.
fell apart. Everybody, sorry.
But you've got to.
Gold strike.
Yeah.
They're not spending the money. It's just sitting there. It's just churning. They're getting more and more, which is taking it out of the middle class, and you're losing this middle class, which is
It's taking the juice out of the economy.
it's
I
just
feel.
taking the juice out of it. You got to pump it back in.
Yeah,
and you got to get
somehow.
the money circulating, because it's the money circulating that drives the economy. And,
Yeah,
and
So
and makes the bombs.
So the money in politics, right, is one aspect of it. But what I see with this Epstein stuff is that there's compromise on people.
well, yeah, but again, I throw all of that into money and politics. I mean, it's the same type of principle. It's
Extortion out of politics. Right?
yeah. I mean, if you
Yeah,
want to say
that's-
extortion, whatever you want to call it, it's still people aren't. The people in power are not doing, are not voting
Yeah.
are not voting for their constituents or what their
In their-
constituents
in their
want.
constituents' best interests.
interests.
Yeah.
What they're doing is they're voting for their best interest and what serves them.
Yeah.
And again, Epstein.
How is this a controversial thing to demand that we have people representing us act in our best interests? I mean, I understand the rhetoric, and I know the answers to how we're talking about
I don't know.
Somali fraud instead of healthcare, right? But still, come on.
Well, but what people do is, when Stauber comes in and says, "I'm going to bring jobs," I'm worried about a job.
Yeah,
You're going to promise me jobs, and
Yeah.
right now I don't have one, and he's going to promise he's going to bring him in. Okay, I'll vote for
He's
him.
also saying they're going to take away your jobs.
Right.
Right.
And they're going to take away your jobs
Which is a lie. That's
because they're
a-
going to shut down all the mines and everything
Yeah.
else.
That's a lie.
You vote for them, and they have no plan to do it.
Do you know how many jobs have been lost over the years due to environmental regulation being enforced on iron mining in Minnesota?
Probably none. So
The answer would be zero. Yeah.
How do
So
you-
slipping
so
off this.
how is copper nickel going to solve all this stuff?
it doesn't, because all the reason copper nickel mining, the whole reason to doing this, at least in my opinion, can be proven, is to divide Democrats and to divide the public.
And get the foot in the door.
Good point. Yeah.
So that what they want is they want people continuing to
Yeah.
vote for. Stauber wants people to continue voting for them.
Kind of like a
and,
psyop.
and for the Democrats to fight. Because if I come in and say, look, I worry about the economy, then all the miners yell and scream.
Right.
And if I say, well, I'm going to support the miners, then all the
So in other words, you've been to the Iron Range.
So,
So,
no, but the person that's on top of this is Greg Luksick and Antofagasta and Rio Tinto and what's the Swiss company. So they're not going to leave a big trail of legacy of like everybody's rich that works here,
Yeah.
right?
so. But yeah, there's those, but right now it's
The international companies, whatever.
yeah, but yeah, so.
So I like to just, have no restrictions, but it has been a long time. So, and I don't know what time you have or what, but what's, what do you got for time? What do you want to talk about next?
I don't know.
Okay.
I think I've covered most of the
In
things.
Yeah.
summary,
Can I have a few questions that are
Sure.
like really interesting or that are been, I want to know. You said you spent 20 years in education.
Yeah, I probably did close to 20 years.
I wanted to be a professional student. I loved it so much. What was your undergrad in?
My undergrad was in biochemistry.
Oh,
No way.
Yeah, I did biochemistry for a year. And then I noticed my classmates are pre-med.
No, actually, sorry, it was microbiology.
Oh, that's cool.
So,
Sweet, yeah.
no, it was microbiology. So,
Microbiology's fun. Yeah.
so I did micro as my undergraduate. I then went to graduate school in biochemistry and molecular biology.
Seriously?
Got a master's in that.
I didn't know that.
Then
Molecular biology is my jam.
and then
Oh my God.
Then I went to med school,
Yeah.
and then I did residency.
I think you might be like the only surgeon I've ever met that has a background in molecular biology. That's pretty remarkable.
I mean, micros come in handy because I know more
Yeah.
about antibiotics and
Yeah.
bugs than
The
than-
molecular is
than
like
most people.
like DNA and medication interaction. Yeah.
Well, I mean, we do a lot more with
Yeah.
DNA and that's sort of where it is. But yeah,
Yeah.
no, it was molecular biology was my master's.
A big deal with our little, pet topic of sulfates and mining is microbiology related. And for a long time, I think that the analysis of the environmental impact in Minnesota has been missing a microbiology component because this issue with sulfates is biology.
The only animal that we use to measure the effects of it is wild rice.
Yeah.
Everything else in that water column is on its own.
Yeah.
Including the
It's
ducks that are dead.
unexamined.
Yeah.
So
that as a little interesting thing I learned recently, there's a sweet spot for sulfate concentration in water where you have the peak mercury methylation activity by bacteria, and it turns out it's between 6 to 7 parts per million. So as a result, like you live up by Virginia, you have to get downstream far enough away from the source of sulfates where that 1,000 milligrams per liter is diluted to about 6 or 7 parts per million before you start seeing mercury methylation, which happens to be around Crane Lake. So
That's why the fish
Yeah.
got
Yeah.
light bulbs in them.
light bulbs in them.
So anyway,
Thermometers in them.
Thermometers. 4-foot light bulbs.
so then I don't remember if we talked about this off camera or not, but we're talking about your decision to go into med school as a graduate. What was the source of inspiration there?
I'd spent 3 years. So the reality is I'd spent 3 years working on a project. So in grad school, you have to write a paper. I mean, you got.
I wrote a paper.
You have to write, to get your doctorate. So I was working on a doctorate. And after 3 years, I sort of looked at my project and realized that I was going to prove my project wrong, which was not going to be.
Oh, no.
I usually don't want to do that on a thesis.
That's not.
You make
thesis
an undergrad
materials,
do that later on, yeah.
And so I was going to have to restart. I was going to have to start back over. And that's when I sat down and talked to a very good friend of mine. He says, he goes, look, Wendell, let's just be honest. Why don't you go to med school? Because med school will open up a lot more
It'll
opportunities.
be fun, they said. You'll love it.
Well,
they said.
it opens up opportunities. If you
Yeah.
want to do basic sciences, you can do basic sciences.
Yeah. If you want to do research.
If you want to do research, you can do research. And he said, but the difference is as a PhD, if you get frustrated and mad at what you're doing, you kick the chair and then you sit down and you write another NIH grant. And I came through grad school when NIH grants were being funded about 10%,
Ooh, okay.
which was not very high.
Yeah, now they're 0, but whatever.
Now they're 0, so we're just about as bad as now.
Yeah.
And so we weren't getting any funding at all, and so I was going to have to probably apply to a different school and start all over.
Yeah.
And so, and he said, but the difference is if you go to medicine,
That is the most Sisyphusian thing.
but if you go to medicine and you get mad or the
Yeah.
funding goes to ground or whatever,
Yeah.
then not only do you kick the chair, you throw it out the door and you go back and practice medicine.
Yeah,
It just
you're not
gives
out
you-
of the ring.
you have so many more opportunities. And so
Right.
I really went to grad school, or I went to med school thinking that I would end up, doing, clinical research
Yeah.
and all that other stuff. And
That's commendable.
and I decided that I enjoyed patients and I enjoyed surgery, and so that's why I went into surgery.
So you sort of discovered that passion later once you're in it.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've always sort of thought I'd be a doctor. I mean, I had some experiences as a kid, and and I'll be honest, I didn't show up to class enough during undergrad to maybe make it in, and so
I did part of my undergrad in Montana, and I did I'm guilty of fly fishing in the afternoon instead of going to class.
I had a season ski pass.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
I mean, once you're there, we might as well, right?
You know, and so, it was one of those things, but I also got sort of turned off of medicine from some experiences I had in high school that it took me a while to realize that people had the right to choose their own path when it came to medicine, and that they had the right to make bad choices.
Right. Because we're individuals.
Well, you're individuals, and we have that right.
Yeah.
And for me to personally be able to accept that, it took a few years to do that. And,
I want to ask more about that, but do you want to tell me more about that?
Oh, I was in high school, and I had a class that we spent 2 days a week doing anatomy and physiology, and then we'd spend 3 days a week in the hospital.
Yeah.
Just observing.
In high school, that's cool.
In high school, yeah. My mom was the charge nurse on the evening shift, and so rather than going 3 times a week, I just went with her once a week, and I was in the ER, and I got to do a lot of things that the other students didn't because of my mother. And one of them was I observed in the ICU, and we had 2 patients in the ICU, an elderly lady that had been involved in a car wreck, that her husband had actually worse off. He got better. She didn't get better. She ended up spiraling down and ended up succumbing to it and dying. And,
that's hard to experience in high school.
But I didn't have a problem. I didn't have a problem with that because medicine provided everything we could to save her life.
Yeah.
And reality is reality.
Yeah.
But in the bed right next, actually 2 beds down, we'll say in the next bed next to her was a young woman, obviously older than I was at the time, but was a young woman that had 2 small children, but because of religious convictions, would not accept blood products.
Ah, okay, right.
And
needed them, I guess.
And she needed them. She had aplastic anemia, so she was unable to make her own.
Right.
And she ended up dying because of that, and that really bothered me because here medicine had this very simple fix. Or at least temporizing, we could, keep her, she could be alive to take care of her children and because of her choices. And so that's kept me out of medicine until I could resolve that within my own mind.
Huh. So you really grappled with that for a long time. I mean, you're describing that's a long student career of time that you spent with that.
To be able to accept that people had choice, people had the right to their choices.
Yeah. Can you point at something that changed your mind about it?
No.
My dad
just
said
time.
something like
Just
that.
time and growing up. I mean, and again, you.
What a difference a day makes.
Well, it's just that people have a right to, and I'm going to say it this way, but people have a right to their own determination.
Right.
Regardless of what that is, whether it's in a job or whether it's in a hobby or whether it's in a lifestyle or whether it's who you want to love or who you want to spend your time with or who you want to be. It's all of that saying that you have the right to make those choices, and I don't have the right to interfere in that.
It seems like that's kind of an important thing that candidate Dr. Wendell Smith has as a conviction is the right to self-determination.
Well, and one of the first questions I got asked at one of the first conventions I went to is somebody came up to me and asked, how I felt about, trans and LGBT. And I looked at her and I said, people have the right to their own determination, to self-determination.
Right.
You have the right to be you and to be you. And and I truly believe that. That doesn't mean that I understand it. It doesn't mean that anything. But that's not my choice. My choice is, I support you, and you have the right to do that.
Yeah, I feel similarly. And on that particular issue, it wasn't until I was much older that I understood a way to relate to that. That the things that I felt ostracized by were, in a little way, my version of defining who I was. And just like that was something that I wanted people to respect. Someone who feels that they don't identify with their given gender needs to be respected for saying, this is what I need from you.
Yeah, it's just, I don't...
And they're literally not hurting anyone, despite what they're trying to tell you.
But it's, it's just people have the right to self-determination and to be who they want to be.
That's part of America, right?
Yeah, it's part of humanity, I think.
Can I want to, maybe move this back that way. Okay. Like jump around on topics. So we got to see you participate in the forum in Duluth last week.
Yep.
Or what day is it? I don't know.
Friday.
Anyway,
It's Thursday.
Thursday, yeah. That was a wonderful experience for me as a constituency. I just like seeing everyone. There's something that was really like. I felt like there was something democratic going on there, that we were having an exchange of ideas, you know. But I think for a lot of candidates, it was like their first sort of bigger venue, and there's a performance aspect to that, you know, that I think was new to a lot of people. So when I was teaching, I was taught to always ask myself the three questions, you know, as a post event, like debrief. Like the three questions are: what went right, what went wrong, and what would you do differently? So would you want to talk about how you felt that went for you with those three questions?
I mean, I think it went okay. I mean, I'll be honest. I think, you know, I mean, I had a lot of people come up and tell me that I did a good job and
Yeah.
everything else.
I thought you did a good job.
I am who I am.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna, you know.
You're authentic, yeah.
I'm authentic. I'm authentic here. I'm not.
Yeah.
There's nothing that I practiced or anything else. Oh yeah, I mean, my son and I always talk, and I'll bring that up. But
Yeah.
I am who I am, and you know that doesn't mean you have to agree with me. But it is. I am who I am.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I think it went okay. I mean, there was a question there that I didn't really answer very well, and it is what it is.
Do you remember what it was?
It was the living or the housing question.
Was it the
Private equity.
private equity question?
Yeah.
Okay, I have a take on that. The thing that was missing from that private equity discussion is that rural newspapers are overwhelmingly owned by private equity. And one of the candidates brought up private equity in the terms of housing because that was that's his thing. But private equity in general affects a lot more areas. And
Well, it affects a lot of areas,
Yeah.
and I just, you know, I don't think I answered that very well, and I need to get a little bit better.
I feel like in a lot of ways we've answered that here.
But but so you know, there's that. And what can I do better? I mean, you know. We've been here now for a long time.
Sorry.
Well, no, I mean,
I've really enjoyed every minute.
and I sit there and I don't say that in a bad sense.
Yeah.
You know, so many things. And again, I'm a scientist, and my son keeps telling me I've got to make the 3-minute statement, and I go, I can't say my name in 3 minutes. You know, and I'm going to.
I could so relate to that.
And I'm a scientist, so I'm going to lay out my case before, and then I'm going to give you my answer at the end, and I've got to reverse that. I've got, you know, if you come out and say,
Yeah, there's that uncertainty in science that you only understand when you're trying to talk about falsifiability that people don't get. Yeah.
You know, and so somebody's asked me, well, what, you know, we have a healthcare crisis, and I'll go through all the things and say we need to do, you know, universal health care, rather than saying, look, we need to universal health care because of this, and this reason.
Yeah.
So, you know, I can always do better at that and get better at, you know, condensing my statements and what I say and a little clearer on what I say.
Okay, yeah, those are really, really transparent, self-reflective things. I mean, I desperately want to ask everyone that question.
No.
You know, because I think that what's missing is that like end cap. You know, I think that people get they get it like a moment during the debate where they're watching and they make up their mind and they jump off the train there, and people they kind of don't revise what they think about people. So it's based on a moment. You know, it's not necessarily even a soundbite.
Yeah, and so, you know, I'm very critical of myself. I always have been. I mean, I'll walk away from here going, yeah, I probably didn't do a good job. That's just the way, it's just the way I am. But I'm very critical of myself.
Be nice to my friend Wendell.
You know, but when people come up to me and they tell me you did a good job, you did a good job, you did a good job, and I go, well, maybe I did. Maybe I'm just being too critical.
That's something personally I've had to work through, is like to just let people compliment you, you know, and just sort of accept it.
And I don't do that well.
Yeah, no, it's a hard thing, especially when you're, you know,
Can I
Even
say
the
so?
most competitive thing is that being a surgeon is all about.
Well, but see, but
Performance,
being
yeah.
a surgeon, we're very critical ourselves
Yeah.
because you really have to look at every surgery and not surgery never goes perfect. It never goes perfect. It
Yeah.
never goes exactly the way you want to, and you're always trying to improve yourself.
Yeah.
And so you tear apart every step and everything
Yeah.
that every stitch that you did. Oh, I took that stitch in two rather than one. I mean, things like that.
Spend too much time with this.
I spent too much time here or whatever, and so you're very, very critical of yourself because you're always trying to improve. And
Yeah.
so that's
So you're a trained self-critique.
so yeah, that's just the way I am.
You gotta. Yeah, that's not a bad thing. What were you gonna say?
I was going to say that you're inspirational, and I'll tell you why. I believe that the leading edge of everything in society and everything that happens from that to whatever we're talking about, safety or equipment, all starts from curiosity. And I'm very interested in people that have multiple aspects of curiosity, like a Renaissance person, right? And so that's what I would say.
Curiosity as a
Renaissance
value and a self.
Yeah. So like, there, like all these things that are issues, right?
Right.
I don't see you distancing yourself from any of them.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
And
yeah.
that you would be very curious about why we're saying stuff in a mining zone, like
Right.
and our concern about indigenous rights. I mean, we're white people, so we shouldn't have to say much, but
Right.
I'm very compelled to learn more about what our role is in respecting those trees, and part of that's in making these drums with indigenous people.
Right.
But
what-
so I guess that
Yeah.
what I'm saying is that curiosity is the beginning of all this stuff, and if we're going to sit back and just fold our fingers, we're in trouble. And so we need people
Right.
that are going to go a lot further, a lot beyond themselves to
Well, I-
learn more that they didn't know and say, well, I really don't know enough about blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, and that's okay to say I don't know.
Well, I think science teaches you that. I mean,
Yeah,
I mean, science
I agree,
teaches.
thank you.
As I'll always put it,
Yeah.
the more I learn, science teaches you that the more you learn, the less you know,
Yeah.
and that's a reality.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't care what you look at. The more you learn, the less you know. That doesn't mean you don't know a lot or don't know things. But I find that people think they know it all and don't have a clue.
Some of my most favorite or memorable interactions with adults as a college student was with scientists, and there were people that I think really embodied the scientific way of thinking. Just skepticism, curiosity, wanting to probe. The idea of just being falsifiable is part of accepting claims and stuff.
You say that.
It's inspiring. Yeah.
The most memorable moment I had was I was taking a biochemistry course, probably where I fell in love with biochemistry and why I did as a graduate student.
Yeah.
But our teacher came in, and it was one of the first days, and he was sitting there talking. He says, over the last year or 2 years, he'd lost like 200 pounds. And I mean, he was skinny. He was,
that's a lot of weight.
He was a thin guy, and he's
Yeah.
up there, and everyone in the class, oh well, that's really cool. How did you do it? And he said, the first thing I had to realize, if I was going to lose weight, I was going to be hungry.
Oh wow!
I mean,
Right.
What a metaphor, man. What about apply that in this
Yeah,
moment?
yeah.
Just apply that to change
Well,
in our political system. What's the first thing that we're going to have to tolerate?
Get hungry.
well, you're going to have to get hungry. I mean, you're going to have to accept that there's going to be change. Nobody likes
Yeah.
change. Nobody thinks, nobody wants to try something different, or very few people want to try something different.
Right.
And
So in other words,
and that
tolerate
there's-
uncertainty?
and that there's going to be a price to pay for it.
Okay,
There's going to be something that's uncomfortable,
Yeah.
but
So-
at the end, something better comes out of it.
So how are you going to convince people it's worthwhile?
Education.
Oh,
Yeah.
is there Ghost of Christmas Past.
It must be. It
Yeah.
says, it's educating people. It's, it's like the gentleman that, went from, no, you don't want Medicare for all
Yeah.
to, this is the only thing you need to talk about.
Yeah.
It's coming down and saying, hey, look, this is, we
cool.
we are at a critical point that hospitals are going to start closed. The medical system that we understand and know and love is going to collapse and nobody's going to have anything.
Right.
And we need to save hospitals. We need to get consistent funding. We need to start funding them in
Right.
general. And, it is education. It's learning. And it's...
So to the undecided voter, if there is any, I don't know, what would you direct them that they need to do next?
Vote for me.
And the second thing they do is
Send me money.
yeah.
No,
Small donations only.
No, as long as it's an individual, you give up to $5,000
Okay.
per cycle. And there's 2 cycles, so you can give me $10,000 total.
Yeah, that's all you need. Just one cycle twice. Yeah.
Well, no, it's
Yeah.
the primaries are a cycle, the generals are a cycle.
Yeah.
So, no, you need to really look as you look at your candidates and you look at the things that you're struggling with. What you want to do is you want to find the candidates that really address the very core values that you have.
What would be
And-
the red flags then that they should be aware of?
Well, I mean, I think people that flip flop on issues, I try not to. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm going to tell you what I think, and I'm
Yeah.
going to stay with them. I'm not going to change. I mean, as I learn more, I will hone them. But it's like living up here. I support mining 100%. It is our economy, but we have to do it in a smart way so that we can protect the environment. So I mean, it's both, but it's not one or the other.
Right.
But worry about people that that change their viewpoints or change what they're talking about. Also, it's the way we took down organized crime. Look where the money's coming from. And is it coming from PACs? Is it coming from big business? Is it coming from I am going to vote according to where my paycheck comes from. Let's just be blunt about that
Yeah,
statement.
that's just
And if
what people do.
And if my paycheck is coming from the people, then that's where I'm going to vote for. And if
Right.
my vote is coming from corporations, then that's
Yeah.
what I'm going to vote for.
So you see yourself as a public servant.
And so I do see myself as a public servant. Again,
Yeah. I mean, you've been a public servant as a doctor.
well, but it comes back to that Hippocratic oth. And
Yeah.
there's 2 things I live by. And
What other candidates have taken a Hippocratic oath?
not many in here,
Yeah.
or none in this race.
Yeah.
But I really think of the Hippocratic Oath, which is patience above self.
Yeah.
And then my oath of office as a U.S. officer. Or,
That's right.
officer
Yeah,
in
you've done that one too.
In the Air Force,
Yeah.
which is to defend and
Right.
to support and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
Yeah.
And I take those serious.
Yeah. Here.
I mean, back to
Damn, make a good soundbite.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I know. But back to to defending the Constitution. I remember, Colin Kaepernick and his kneeling for the flag.
Yeah.
And people asked me because I'm a veteran,
Yeah.
how I felt about that, and
Yeah.
I said, look, it really doesn't matter how I feel about it.
Yeah.
I was willing to put my life on the line so that he could do that,
Yeah. Right.
and that's his right, and
Yeah.
that's why I took that oath.
That's a profound moment.
And
Yeah.
and that's really the way I feel. It's
Right.
not, I may not agree with what you do, but or what you say,
right.
but I put my life on the line so that you could say that.
Right. That was an important moment.
And
Yeah.
when I told the individual that asked me that, she looked at me and went,
I guess that is a good point.
and then never asked me again.
So you've engineers also take something akin to a Hippocratic oath.
Can you find that
Oh,
picture
yeah.
of the bridge?
Yeah, after this socialism. Well, my favorite.
Yeah.
My concern is that we expect airplanes to fly. We don't want bridges to collapse. We have a Hippocratic oath not to hurt people and to look at the civilian population, and they expect us to not build bridges that collapse.
Well, no, I
Yeah.
mean, everyone expects you to, if you go and inspect a bridge and you see that it's faulty, you expect, society expects you to say, look, this needs to be fixed. And if the owner of the bridge, whether it be private or public, comes in and tells you, no, you don't want to do that, we don't want to fix it, so let's falsify your data to do that, then
So there's the bridge.
I'm trying to.
And my view is that we're looking at a bending ecosystem collapse.
yeah.
And we've got laboratory indications of it already in process at
Here, I'll
some
do-
level or
I'll do
another.
like the, oh,
And
wait.
what can we do
Here's the transition to
before
the
it's
thing.
like
Right there.
not
That's
too late, but before it's too late?
June 2003. Here's a bending gusset.
Yeah.
That's the evidence that was
So it looks-
documented by an engineer
So it
that
just
had
looks
the right
like
to say
every other
something.
bridge, and yeah, we got 8 lanes up there
Had the
now,
obligation to say
and-
something,
Yeah, and so, and I believe you would do the same thing.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
it's just you have to stick by your moral convictions. I mean, like I said, and you've got Wellstone at the top, the Wellstone bus, but even though I disliked him voting against that,
Yeah.
I respected it.
I believe
stood
that,
by his
that
convictions.
story that you told illustrates something that's important about people who use scientific thinking as part of their process. Is that you're open to new information, and that's part of curiosity and a part of how people evolve, and that's important. I think that's a value. I think it's more important for me that candidates accept mistakes than it is for them to avoid them. Own the mistake rather than say, I'm never going to make a mistake and never going to take a risk.
So
Yeah. Okay. Whatever time it's been or something, I can never figure out a good way to draw these to a close. Should we try that? Are we ready to kind of quit, or should we keep talking about more subjects? Or
no, I think I'm about right.
Okay, yeah.
I'd just like to say I really appreciate the dedication of the time of your life, your precious life, to the service of this country in the Air Force. That was pretty cool. And,
Yeah. He's a vet too.
there are so many fewer veterans in the in the Congress now, both
Yeah.
state and federal, than I don't know if maybe ever before. And that to me is a really big thing.
Yeah, I think that's an important. Well, it was. Oh my God, I can't remember people's names. John McCain was sort of
yeah.
one of the last prominent veterans.
Yeah.
Well, but I mean, but even I think when you're a veteran, especially in those positions, number one, it's a service.
Yeah.
Right.
And you look at it as a service because
You understand service in
you
general.
understand service a little bit more, but especially with the situations we find today, I can much better support. I could have much better supported Biden going into Iraq than Trump. And the reason that I will say that is even if it's the same thing, I may disagree with it, but Biden had a son that died.
Oh, right. He understood risk. In other words,
He understands the risk.
Yeah. Yeah. Put up or shut up.
And well, it's not that. Is you understand that you're putting you understand when you're putting people into harm's
He
way,
understood loss too.
and the loss that can come from that.
Yeah.
And so I think that when you talk about that, especially in those positions that literally you may be called upon to put people's lives in harm's way.
Oh, right.
That
yeah.
that you understand that there is a cost
Yeah.
and there is a price, and it's a very real one.
It seems like an important value.
Pretty
So
important.
it's just one of those things that I think that as a veteran,
Yeah. As a doctor too,
no one else. Yeah, I mean,
you understand that.
I understand. I understand that there's nothing that you can do, and I understand having to go out and tell patients that their loved ones have died, and the worst one I ever had was a lady that her husband had come in, and we'd done heart surgeries in residency. We'd done heart surgery on him, and he came in a week later and wasn't doing very well, and the next day he was doing even worse. And then we figured out what was going on, and he ended up expiring. And I remember walking out to tell his wife that, you know, her husband was dead, and she's sitting out in the waiting room with a bouquet of flowers and a card because it's Valentine's Day.
Ouchie. Holy cow, man. Just for that, like I don't think a lot of people have experienced that kind of discomfort and tragedy.
And you know, nothing was said between us.
Yeah, well, yeah, but that informs you
But-
everything you do since, right?
But
Yeah.
you understand.
Yeah.
I hear you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Being able to relate to difficulties and
But yeah, so it
important.
you know, I think veterans have that unique. I
Yeah.
mean, not only the service
Yeah.
and the dedication and understanding what they stand for. They also understand what
right.
Humility, for crying out loud.
what they're putting people into. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank
Should
you.
we
for
end on
your
a lighter
service.
Yeah, we can. You know, or what, death and destruction? I mean, you know, what's wrong with that?
I don't know. I just remembered a joke I heard.
Yeah,
What did the pirate say on his birthday?
I don't know.
I'm 80.
So
Did I deliver it right? I'm 80.
I know it's been about 5 hours, but you coming
Man,
back?
I might cut this out. That's terrible.
no, you got to leave it in because you're closed with it.
Oh my God. What did the pirate say on his 80th birthday? I'm 80.
That's better.
My God. Well, I don't blame you if you never want to talk to me again, but
What's a pirate's favorite letter?
Arr.
it's not. It's
Why, it's the C, matey.
it's the C. Yeah, it's not R.
So
They call me Captain Random
I'm
Beer.
taking the headset off.
Everything I do is arbitrary. Well, we got to do this. The closing.
the
Yeah.
shirt?
If you made it this far,
We made it this far.
you've been watching Views Are Mine, the podcast where I don't know how to edit long conversations out. I just
Call
leave
this
them
a
right in.
campaign contribution if you
And
dare.
our future congressman.
But this is the first delivery of a Views Are Mine T-shirt to Dr. Smith.
Thank
This
you.
is a white one with black QR code for Views Are Mine, and sooner or later we're going to have tie-dyed ones, so you'll be able to tell what order of
what order?
what order you came in at Views
As
Are
soon as we
Mine.
figure out how to do that. So I'm Andy. That one is Mike.
Mike,
This is Chris Baldwin, and
I'm
we've
Chris.
been having a really, really wonderful discussion with candidate for Congressional District 8 in Minnesota, Dr. Wendell Smith.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching.
Thank you.